Chapter 744. The identity of the old man. Seeing Ming Yi and the Yao elders leave with their tails between their legs, Zuo was lost in thought and did not seem to notice them. The Mo in the surroundings looked at him with awe and respect. Any person that managed to extort a top treasure, the death thought bead, from the Yao elders were worthy of respect. Ming Yi had been decisive. It was worth it to trade the death thought bead for Elder Yi, one of the 10 Yao. Elder Yi now owed her a favor. This was a good thing. Also, she had obtained a much stronger Feng Xin. As to the death thought bead, that was the public property of the Council of Elders, and she did not care as it was not her personal loss. While her mission had failed this time, her individual strength had grown greatly. The most valuable gain from this trip was their experience in fighting with Shen power, which would be of great help in helping them perfect Shen power. Both Elder Yi and Feng Xin were the ones that had benefited directly and the most. They had a deeper comprehension of Shen power. Ming Yi knew that these two people were crucial and they were in her camp, and would greatly increase her status in the Council of Elders. If she could advance the Yao Shen power system, no one would be able to shake her position, and she was likely to ascend to the position of Chief Elder. No one knew Ming Yi's thoughts. All of the Yao elders had dispirited expressions. Everything they had endured today, in their view, was a humiliation. A grudge had undoubtedly been created between Zuo and the Yao Council of Elders. However, both Ming Yi and Zuo did not care too much about this. For Ming Yi, her goal was the seat of Chief Elder. Before she took power, she did not have any direct conflict with Xiao Mo Ge. It was the opposite. After seeing Xiao Mo Ge's great strength, she had even thought of allying with Xiao Mo Ge. If she had such a strong helper outside the Council of Elders, it would be beneficial for her faction. There were many rules the Council of Elders had to abide by. She was restrained. Her influence outside the Council of Elders would not be affected, and there would be many convenient uses for such an ally. Ming Yi had smiled as though there had been no conflict at all as she briskly agreed to Zuo's request. Even Zuo had been surprised. However, this increased Zuo's wariness of her. This woman was very strong. Little Mo Ge felt that he definitely could not be like her, going from fighting in a life and death battle in one moment to chatting with a smile the next. She was also decisive and did not hesitate once she made a decision. While he did not like this type of person, Zuo had to admire Ming Yi's strength. He also had a feeling. This woman would definitely have great power and influence in the future. Shaking his head, Zuo turned his head and laughed at himself. That had nothing to do with him. Zuo decided to ignore Ming Yi's hidden intention to establish a good relationship at the end. You had to guard against an ally like this, someone who might stab you in the back at any time. We also have to go. Gu Liangdao came over and had a hug with Zuo. Zuo noticed the gazes that had gathered on them. He couldn't help but ask, "Do you want us to accompany you?" Gu Liangdao laughed brightly. "Haha, no need. There's Xiao Yu, and now there is the Birdman suit. It will crush anyone that comes." Birdman suit. Zuo's temple throbbed. "I will protect Big Brother." Shuang Yu weakly guarantee from the side. "All right, be careful during your travel." Zuo could only say, "Don't worry. Work hard. Us brothers will meet again in the future." Gu Liangdao took a wineskin from his waist and after taking a great swallow, handed it to Zuo. Zuo took the wineskin, and also took a deep gulp. He felt as though there was a fire burning in his chest. "Yes. Us brothers will meet in the future." "Aha. Xiao Yu, let's go." Gu Liangdao laughed and walked out with his head up high. Shuang Yu waved at Zuo, and then followed closely. The two flew out of the king's forbidden city. A troop flew out of the crowd, and formed a protective perimeter with them in the middle. It was Gu Liangdao's personal guard. Zuo's worries were finally put to rest, and then he laughed. Gu Liangdao looked simple-minded, but he was a daring and detail-minded person. How could he not have any plans? "Everyone, the spectacle is over. You may do as you please." Zuo glanced over the other people and then ignored them. He was preparing to go back to Cloud Sea. Oh, it was now called Mo Cloud Sea. He needed a safe place to have a Gue use the 5-element Soul Dan and the Death Thought Bead. The Mo territories were clearly not a good place. He also needed time to go through his memories in detail. He hoped he would get back to Mo Cloud Sea in time for the fighting, and see if there were any places he could help. But before leaving, he still had some problems to resolve. He turned to walk towards the old man in the corner. The old man did not seem to be surprised to see him coming. "Who are you? Why did I not find you in my memories?" Mo asked directly. The old man grinned, but his gaze was cold. "Of course. How can the Zhou family's young master's memories have an impression of a little person like me?" Mo frowned. The old man's tone showed his friendlessness. "There is enmity between us?" "Not really, but your grandmother exiled me," the old man said coolly. Mo was shocked. "Exiled?" The old man narrowed his eyes and said humorously, "In the Zhou family, practicing Shen power is restricted. However, I had the duty of guarding the Shen device, and I managed to get a few hints. A secret will never remain hidden forever. Your grandmother discovered I had learned it. I hadn't expected the old woman's Shen power to be greater than mine. There was no way about it. But the old woman still thought of my past service, and only excited me to a desolate Jia." Mo felt his mind was a mess. There was too much information contained in the old man's words. This old man's entire life could be said to be in the old woman's hands. She probably knew that she didn't have much time left back then, so she brought her to you and nurtured her to be your person. This way, this old man could not stand by and ignore what happened afterwards. She really was cunning. The old man said coldly, "You are a Gui's." Mo's eyes widened, and he threw all his other questions to the back of his head. "A Gui?" The old man stilled and his eyes suddenly narrowed and flashed coldly. "She's your ghost?" Some memory fragments flashed across Mo's mind. He nodded. The old woman really schemed well. Even in death, she does not let others rest. The old man turned to look at a Gui with pity and guilt. His tone was filled with unfriendliness. "No wonder she is loyal to you, and turned herself into this ghastly state. My pitiful granddaughter." Mo's body shook. The old man was a Gui's grandfather. The old man suddenly lost interest. "Let's go and talk more on the road." When Mo's group finished packing up and left Buzhou City, a figure carrying a sword covered in dust appeared on the horizon nearby. Mo was overjoyed. Eldest Xixiang. Wei Sheng smiled as he carried his sword. Liang Wei's face was dark. In front of him was an order telling him to stop working and reflect on his actions. The cause of this was very simple. He had captured a Kunlun scout and managed to extract an extremely valuable piece of information. Kunlun was busy swallowing Xiankong Temple, and most of the battalions on that region's defense line had been moved towards Xiankong realm except for a few. He thought this was a rare chance and reported the situation. Yet his report seemed to have dissolved in the ocean. Nothing came back. This was not unexpected. As the battle on the front lines was in a stalemate, he had been reassigned and was now under the banner of Ensure Corps. Corps Commander Ensure was old and experienced with a great reputation among the Yao that normal corps commanders could not rival. Theoretically, this was not a disservice to him. However, Corps Commander Ensure favored defensive tactics over offensive ones, and seemed overly conservative to Liang Wei. No matter what kind of battle plan he suggested, they were never accepted. Without fighting, Liang Wei's days passed as though they were years. Corps Commander Ensure was dissatisfied with his restlessness, and moved him to a position of no real power. If he hadn't had an accomplished record of service, he would probably have been kicked out already. Unwilling to waste his days, Liang Wei led a few guards and sneaked into the front lines alone to act as scouts. The secret was hard to keep, especially after Liang Wei had suggested attacking to Corps Commander Ensure based on the gathered intel. The anger of Corps Commander Ensure could be imagined. So the order to be relieved of his duties and reflect appeared in front of him. Feeling depressed, Liang Wei rang into the 10-finger prison and wanted to vent himself through war chess. With his skill level, he naturally won in war chess. He quickly found himself bored. Coming out of war chess, he dazedly roamed about. He suddenly saw someone familiar, and he became alert. Xiao. The person who had a hurried expression immediately stopped. When he saw Liang Wei, a smile bloomed on his face. Wei, long time no see. Aren't you at the front lines? How come you have the time to come to the 10-finger prison? Hearing the slightly feminine name Wei Wei, Liang Wei felt slightly helpless but also warm. A Xiao was a good friend of his from the Yao art house, but unlike him who entered the military, a Xiao's marks were not good enough to enter the military. Don't mention it. I did something wrong. I've been relieved of my duties and ordered to reflect, Liang Wei said, pretending to be unconcerned. A Xiao's expression was surprised. Liang Wei had been outstanding in the Yao art house and been tasked with great responsibility after entering the military corps. His achievements from last time had been broadcast far and wide, and he had been called the next upcoming star of the Yao. Why was he relieved of his duties and ordered to reflect? But a Xiao perceptively did not press. He smiled and said, "Haha, then relax. Come with me to a place." Liang Wei, who had nothing to do, naturally agreed. The two quickly came to a place with a sign, Pupa's Home for Battle Generals. What place is this? A battle general club? Liang Wei looked around curiously. You'll know when you go in. A Xiao kept it a secret. They saw several people along the way, but there wasn't even one silver battle general. Liang Wei felt dismissive of this establishment. This was probably another place for low-level battle generals to boast. Do you want to become a top battle general? Pupa's Home for Battle Generals will give you the wings to fly. There will be a famed teacher every week, simulations every day. As long as you persist, you can become a battle general. Liang Wei's disdain grew with the ads. This was the advertising of those training courses that were used to defraud people of money. A Xiao would actually believe something like this. He was just about to speak when he suddenly saw a phrase out of the corner of his eye. He stopped walking, and lightning seemed to explode in his mind. Battle is changing, have you detected it? Chapter 745, New Era. In this turbulent era, the changes of the world were so rapid they dazzled the eyes. In the span of a night, the world had completely changed. In this period of time, some major events had occurred. What was most attention-catching was the division of Xiankong Temple's territory. Countless factions leapt towards them like hungry wolves. The ones that benefited the most were Kunlun and Tianhuan. The two's power grew enormously, and they became two titans that were so large it was frightening. The Mo territories filled with its heroes entered an era of consolidation. In the 100 Savage realm, the Mo Shen Temple was the strongest, then it was the Mo Martial Alliance led by Marshal D, and the Heroes Alliance led by Marshal Hao. In the distant and remote Nether realm, the first king of the Nether realm came to power. The Nether King. This shook all of the Mo territories. The birth of the Nether King attracted the eyes of the entire world. This meant that the Mo now had a faction that could rival Kunlun, Tianhuan, and the Yao. Compared to the Xiuzhou world and the Mo territories, the Yao were much quieter. Ming Yuyi entered the highest power ranks of the Council of Elders, becoming the 13-seat Inner Council, and became the youngest Inner Council elder in history. Already famous, Ming Yuyi's prestige reached a whole new level. Other than this, Gu Liangdao's strength grew enormously after he obtained the Angel Device raiment. His strongest expert, Shuangyu, became famous after killing 3 Mo marshals in a single battle. Many of the people under Gu Liangdao's command were unknown before, but the other factions now lusted for them. Under the talented Xiao, who started as an accountant, the development of Gu Liangdao's territory was fierce. Gu Liangdao, Shuangyu, Xiao, these 3 disciples came from Xixian. Their light was enough to make all of Xixian seem dim in comparison. They had the name of the Xixian's talented trio. Of course, Xixian would never admit to this. Other than this, there was one other faction that attracted attention from different powers. Mo Cloud Sea. Mo Cloud Sea's growth had also been fueled by Xiankong Temple's downfall. In a military blitz, Mo Cloud Sea had quickly taken 56 Jia in just 6 months. In the 6 months, they had defeated and forced back dozens of surrounding powers, defeating hundreds of battalions, including 2 from Kunlun and Tianhuan. Such a domineering and fierce power immediately caused the neighboring powers to fear it. Just as everyone thought that another great power would take form, unexpected, after swallowing the 56 Jia, Mo Cloud Sea stopped expanding without any warning. At this time, no one had the time to think about this. The collapse of Xiankong Temple was an unparalleled feast. Its enormous size and richness of resources was definitely among the top of the factions who had collapsed in the last few thousand years. The 56 Jie was just a small piece of this great and grand banquet. The eyes of the factions were on the territories that had not yet been divided. The one that fought the hardest was Kunlun, Tian Huan, and the last remaining 9 great Diana sects of the 10 great Diana sections. The powerful Kunlun and Tian Huan took about 1/5 of Xiankong Temple each. The 9 great Diana sects took 2/5 of Xiankong Temple, and the last fifth had been split by the other powers. The great Xiankong Temple, that had once been one of the 4 great sects, crushed, and existed only in the records. When this banquet gradually came to an end, and people started to calculate their spoils, they found to their shock that the 56 Jie that Mo Cloud Sea took over made up some of the best parts of Xiankong Temple's territories. Numerous factions wanted to move against Mo Cloud Sea. The factions that had been defeated did not dare, but other factions that thought they were strong enough were deeply tempted by the 56 resource Jies. But when the battalions reached the 56 Jie, they found, to their shock, that densely arrayed Jinji forts had been built up at some unknown time. The layers of densely arranged Jinji gave off blinding light that caused those to look to feel their scalp prickle and to inhale sharply. Everyone was shocked by Mo Cloud Sea's wealth, manpower, and resources. They could not understand how they were able to set up such perfect Jinji forts in such a short amount of time. They scouted around to probe and could not find a weak point. There were more experienced battle generals that spent a lot of time to investigate all the Jinji on the borders. When they mapped out the positions of the forts, they found that these Jinji forts connected together in a strong defensive formation. The Jinji forts were not simply designed to guard the Jie rivers. They connected to each other and were placed in a carefully planned and orderly fashion. The complexity almost surpassed a person's imagination. The forts formed layers of defenses that were so exquisitely planned that any factions that attacked it would become off bloody. Mo Cloud Sea only needed to use a small number of battalions, and the defense line would be stable. If the enemy wanted to attack, there was no other methods than attacking the forts one by one. The others' expansion plan had been planned in great detail. Those that paid attention read a strong desire to expand into the surrounding territories using this defense line. However, what truly caused people to pay attention to Mo Cloud Sea was the return of Gongye Xiaorong. When Gongye Xiaorong returned to Tian Huan with the remnants of his battalion, with not even 900 people left, all of Tian Huan was overjoyed. People quickly learned that Gongye Xiaorong had been defeated by Gong Suncha. Gong Suncha's reputation moved up a level. As people paid attention, the secret that the master of Mo Cloud Sea, Mo, was Xiao Mo Gu also floated up. The other top-level battle general, Bi Han, also started appearing. Thinking about the 2 top battle generals holding the forts, no one dared to target them. Even Kunlun and Tian Hun didn't dare to move rashly, much less the other factions. The battle to divide Xiankong Temple raged for 2 years before finally ending. There were many riddles in this time. The biggest riddle was the disappearance of Xiankong Temple's Sutra Library and the Diana Treasure Pavilion. When the invading factions, with Kunlun in the lead, hurriedly got to the main peak of Xiankong Temple, they found that someone else had gotten there first. Xiankong Temple's main peak was a sea of flames, the Sutra Library and the Diana Treasure Pavilion completely cleaned out. The news shocked the world. The Sutra Library collected all of the spells of Xiankong Temple. The Diana Treasure Pavilion contained all the treasures that 1,000 generations had gathered. If Xiankong Temple was a feast, then the Sutra Library and the Diana Treasure Pavilion was the main course. All of the factions that participated in the invasion were enraged. But even after many years, they hadn't found any clues. The thieves seemed to have disappeared and not left behind one clue. Many masters skilled in divination tried to search, but there was nothing obtained. The thieves had been skilled and used a special method to disguise everyone. The Xiuzha world, the Mo territories, and the Yao, the entire world entered a temporary period of fragile peace. The world situation was maintained for 5 years. For Mo Cloud Sea, these 5 years were crucial, especially for development of Shen methodologies. 5 years ago, Shen power was a mysterious and distant thing for the average person, a field that only the top factions could touch. But right now, after 5 years of development, all kinds of Shen power appeared like bamboo after a rain. The most famous were the Kunlun's Shen power, the Tianhuan's Shen glyphs. Shi Xian had the 5-element Shen power, but the consensus was that the pure 5-element Shen power was the reverse 5-element Shen power created by Shuangyu under Guliang Dao. This reinforced the belief that Shi Xian's power and influence was in decline. The 9 great dhyana sects had many dhyana heart Shen power and dhyana thought Shen power. There were many kinds, but not having inherited Qiankong Temple's scripture as well as the Shen power they had created. These 9 factions had not developed a Shen method that could rank at the top Shen powers. Among the top Shen powers in the Xiuzhi world, Mo Cloud C's Mo Cloud Shen power was the most attention-catching. Unlike the other Shen powers, Mo Cloud Shen power was unique in cultivating with the 3 powers as the fundamentals. Of course, the reason for this was the master of Mo Cloud C, Zhua Mo. The rumors among the common people was that Lin Qian had comprehended Kunlun Shen power after a fight against Zhua Mo. Due to this, the other factions put a great focus on spying on Mo Cloud C and investigating their Shen power. Many factions that had mastered Shen power hoped to use their findings to break through. Even though Zhua Mo and the others had thought of many ways to stop the Shen methodology from being leaked, but the most fundamental Shen methodology was still inevitably leaked in the end. With such large-scale practice, it was difficult to prevent the spread of the basic Shen methodology, but the people who got the Mo Cloud Shen power method quickly found that, compared to the other powers, Mo Cloud Shen power was the hardest to cultivate. It required cultivating all 3 powers, and meant that the amount of time one had to spend was at least 3 times. People quickly lost interest in Mo Cloud Shen power. They turned their attention to the Shen powers that had originated from Ling power. They were more familiar with Ling power, and the Shen power used Ling power as the base was more fitting to their needs. No matter how good the Mo Cloud Shen power was, they could only use it as an example. The fundament Shen methodology of Kunlun and Tianhuan spread. These basic methods were not enough for people to actually reach Shen power, but it was of great inspiration to other sections. It allowed them to understand which direction they should develop in. The path that Kunlun and Tianhuan tread on was what they needed. Reality proved that not all genius were in the major sections. All the talents of the major sects secluded themselves to create their own sect's Shen power. In this period of time, all kinds of Shen power had been created. The great majority of them couldn't even reach the 3rd rank, but there were Shen powers that were unique among them. For everyone, Shen power was no longer going to be a term that was mysterious, unknown and distant. As Shen power continued to develop, the difference between the major sects quickly grew smaller. The Xiuzhi world seemed to recover to a new equilibrium. However, some sects continued to struggle and many sects managed to capitalize on this opportunity. There would be a new Shen power being created every day. The Shen power system of the Xiuzhi world was being enriched and perfected. It was an exciting and vibrant era filled with life. People enthusiastically cultivated Shen power. Everyone was filled with curiosity and anticipation towards this completely new power. This was a blooming era. This was an energetic era. This was an era where 100 flowers bloomed. This was an era where opportunity and danger coexisted. This was an era of geniuses. This was a completely new era. The era of Shen power. Chapter 746. Shen device. In this 5-year period, Mo Cloud C did not expand. The Jinji defense line completely separated Mo Cloud C from the outside world. This isolationist stance caused Mo Cloud C to seem even more mysterious in the eyes of other factions. There were only a rare few that knew how much Mo Cloud C had developed. The fighting to divide Qiankong Temple had continued for 2 years, but for Mo Cloud C, it had only been 6 months. Adding on the 5 years period of peace, the Mo Cloud C had was 6 years and 6 months of peace, 1 year and 6 months more than the other powers. In this 6 years and 6 months of time, Mo Cloud C developed at an astounding rate each day. From a long time ago, Zhua Mo had given the Shen methodology to the core members of Mo Cloud C. Mo Cloud C had started developing in this area many years earlier than everyone else. According to the knowledge that Zhua Mo supplied, The MO Cloud Shin methodology that all of MO Cloud C helped develop was already very mature. MO Cloud C drew inspiration from Zhuamo's Sun Shin methodology, the Green Vine Shin methodology, the Mist Shin methodology, and the Undying Shin methodology that came from the Undying Shin punishment. While one still needed to cultivate the three powers, but MO Cloud C, which possessed the Pu Wei library, quickly found suitable methods from the Yao and MO powers. Unlike big sects like Kunlun and Tianhuan, MO Cloud C didn't have any Fanshu. This past weakness now became a great advantage. Other than this, the seal inscriptions of Golden Crow Camp developed far beyond what the outer world imagined. Other than the inscription of Shun glyphs, which was still immature, they had developed the inscription of MO matrices, Yao cores, and seal scripts. They even created a completely new cultivation method that merged inscribing and MO Cloud C Shin methodology. They even used this to create two new terrifying battalions, the New Guard Camp and Sim Battalion. However, the accomplishments of Golden Crow Camp were not limited to just this. Even Zhua Mo, the person who had founded Golden Crow Camp, had never thought that Golden Crow Camp would develop to such a level. The present Golden Crow Cloud Island was heavily guarded. Large and vicious cloud steeds flew through the clouds and continued to land on the Cloud Island. Having obtained all kinds of secret husbandry methods from the three races, Chun Yucheng continued to breed, research, nurture, and spend. He finally bred a completely new powerful species that was unlike MO steeds, Ling beasts, or Yao beasts. In the end, he named them Cloud Steeds. The Cloud Steeds had something very unique. They had three beast cores inside their bodies and they possessed the three powers. However, because the numbers were limited, only the core members of MO Cloud C possessed them. In MO Cloud C, Cloud Steeds were a symbol of status. It was rare for so many important people to appear at the same time at Golden Crow Cloud Island. The disciples on the island were restless, but no one dared to ask questions. On Golden Crow Cloud Island, there were too many things to keep secret. All the upper levels of MO Cloud C, without exception, had come. Under the guidance of the two masters, they disappeared into the Jinji. Inside the Jinji, everyone's gazes were attracted by two suits of armor. The two sets of armor silently floated in front of them, one as bright as fire, the other silver-white like frost. The two masters wore an expression of pride. Master Sun Boa's tone was cool, but filled with strong confidence. These are two sets of Shin device raiments. Shin device raiments. Boom. The crowd exploded. No one had thought that Golden Crow Camp were already able to forge Shin device raiments. It had been 7 whole years since Mo had forged the Angel device raiment. In these 7 years, so much had changed. This included Shin devices. 1 year ago, Kunlun was the first to announce the creation of the first Shin device, capable person. In the next month, Tianhuan also announced Tianhuan's first Shin device called the Weaving Girl's Shuttle. Then Xixian announced the existence of Floating Leaf Fire. However, almost all of the Shin devices used Zhuamo's naming pattern, raiment. And almost all of the Shin devices had been formed into armor. Even Kunlun, who was famous for its swords, were not an exception. This was because they found that this structure, which covered the entire body, could use Shin power to its greatest effect and was helpful in controlling Shin power. Everyone had been waiting for Mo to forge a new Shin device. No one had expected Golden Crow Camp to be the first to forge them. Actually, we had considered forging Shin devices a long time ago because we have the most complete information on the method. We had initial thoughts, but we quickly faced a problem: what kind of Shin device to forge? Then we asked Darren for his opinion, and Darren suggested for us to forge Battle General Shin device raiments. Battle General Shin device raiments. This answer had been unexpected by all. Gong Suncha and Bihan's eyes suddenly lit up. Mo spoke at this time. Yes, there is one important reason that we have been able to get to where we are. It is because we possess 2 top battle generals. So we first forged Battle General Shin devices. Shin power is continuing to level up. From the beginning where only a few cultivated it to now where everyone is cultivating it. Future battalions will be comprised of soldiers that cultivate Shin power. And what will change is the method of battle. We will only truly be ahead of the others if we are the most advanced in this area. Everyone had thoughtful expression. Many people nodded inwardly, especially the battle generals. They felt this even more directly and deeper. The silver one is Gongsun Daren's raiment. It is called City Destroyer. One Gongsun Cha's smile froze on his face. The other people covered their mouths, their facial muscles furiously trembling as they forced themselves to not laugh out loud. Afraid of being blamed, Master Sun Bao hurriedly added, Darren personally named it. Zhuomo's smile froze. He swore at Sun Bao inside, piling a smile on his face. Shitty, this is a good omen. One smile to destroy cities. In the span of one smile, take down a city. How great is that? Actually, if it wasn't, I feel that one smile to destroy a Jia is even better. In one smile, destroy a Jia, ha ha ha. When he got to the end, Zhuomo pretended to be cheerful and laughed. The expressions of the other people became even more pained. Their faces under their hands became even more twisted. If they offended Lil Miss Darren, then their future days would be dark. Gongsun Cha smiled slightly and said unaffectedly, This name is good. It was over. He had offended Gongsun Shitty. Zhuomo wiped away the sweat on his brow. Master Jiwei quickly changed the topic. Bihan Darren's set is called Arsonist. Bihan expressionlessly glanced at Zhuomo's hair stood up. Bihan gritted his teeth inside. Of course he knew the Darren meant. It referred to the fire that he had set on Xiankong Temple's main peak. Thinking about how he had been kidnapped, sold himself to Darren, and how he had once said to Darren that he was going to set a fire to burn down Xiankong Temple, Bihan felt the past him was so stupid. Other than Zhuomo and Gongsun Cha, no one else knew that Bihan had set a fire to burn down Xiankong Temple's main peak. The other people praised the name Arsonist. While Bihan was cold and reclusive, his fighting style was as a raging fire as he destroyed all those in his way. The name Arsonist matched that. The name isn't bad. Bihan was expressionless and his tone was icy. The two masters wiped away cold sweat. They had wondered for a long time about the two names. If Darren hadn't personally named them, they definitely would not have agreed. Cough. Zhuomo pretended to be composed and concluded, I hope everyone will cooperate with Gongsun Cha Darren and Bihan Darren to find a new battle method and master it. Gongsun Cha had a small smile. Bihan was expressionless. The battle generals felt their scalps prickle. Many people had expressions of wanting to cry. Why was it that Darren was the one that made trouble, but they were the ones to pay for it? Why? After saying this, Zhuomo raced off. Deep in the night, the stars filled the sky. Zhuomo was reclining on the rooftop with a bottle of wine beside him. He was leaning on his arm as he stared out in a daze at the stars. Ague was silently sitting next to him, and didn't look any different from 7 years ago. Zhuomo knew how great the changes of the 7 years had been. The entire world was completely different. The two Shin devices today had stirred some of his memories. It was a very rare that anyone knew that the first true Shin device after the end of the ancient era was not Kunlun's capable person, but an unknown ghost that had been forged by his deceased father. This Shin device was also one of the fuses that led to the destruction of the Zhua family. The 4 sects that had come divided up ghost. This became one of their important articles of study. They determinedly believed that they could find the crux of Shin power from it. Because before father had forged ghost, no one in the Zhua family had cultivated Shin power. There was a lot of information in Zhuomo's memory fragments that had been obtained from his father's secret rooms. For example, he knew that his mother had once been father's ghost, and this was one of the reasons that grandmother had not liked mother. The death of his parents was a riddle. Even his grandmother had never mentioned it. He only knew that ghost had always been kept at home even though he had never seen it. The old man who had been guarding it comprehended Shin power, and been exiled to a desolate Ajia. In reality, other than the old man, there had been another person who had also comprehended Shin power from it, his grandmother. While grandmother had been alive, no one dared to come and make trouble. The only one able to exile a Shin power expert could only be another Shin power expert. The matters of his father and mother were very distant. So distant that he could only find some sparse words from those shattered memories. But he knew that father had forged ghost for mother. It was probably because father understood that one needed power to protect the people and things he held precious. In these years, Swordsmanship had not stopped cultivating. He knew that he would only be able to protect everything he treasured if he became more powerful. He looked warmly at Agoe. There was the entire Mo Cloud Sea, and everyone that needed his protection. Maybe some people were filled with unrealistic illusions about the future, but Swordsmanship knew when the peace ended. It meant an even more desperate era. But he did not fear it. One literally means destroyer of cities, but it is usually used as a descriptor of female beauty, as a beauty that can destroy cities and countries. Chapter 747. The last straw. The stairs stretched deep down as though there was no end into the darkness. The walls on all sides were engraved with all kinds of seal scripts. Some had already started to crumble. It was clear that they were ancient. Flying down along the stone stairs, they had been moving for more than 4 hours, but still could not see the end of the stairs. Sect leader. The elder at the front murmured anxiously. It was unusually clear in the deathly silence and caused everyone else to jump in fright. Some of the less courageous elders changed expressions minutely and showed slight terror. What? The sect leader did not stop. A hint of disdain floated at the corner of his lips. You're afraid? The elders were silent. No one made a sound. There's no way around it even if you are afraid. Do you know what the outside says about us? Ha! Us Shixian are the second Xiankong temple. The Shixian trio. TSK, but none of them are in Shixian. The outside says that I am useless, that is right. However, you all know the situation of the sect better than anyone. Who forced Guliang Dao into a corner? I said we needed to win over Shuangyu. Humph. The result? No one would bear to spit out some meat. The sect leader's cold and sharp words echoed in the passageway. The elders' faces turned black and white. No one made a sound. The battalions are in your hands. The battle generals are all your sons and nephews. Ha, that's nothing. I understand letting those close to you get the benefits. But please pick ones with some talent. TSK. In 1 month 3 battalions were defeated. No wonder other people say we are the second Xiankong temple. We did not receive any information beforehand. An elder argued. So people have to first notify you before attacking you? The sect leader smiled coldly. Look at what factions have defeated us, small factions without any fame. You are all masters at inner conflict. TSK, if you had half that skill when fighting against the outside, our sect should have conquered the 4 realms a long time ago. Embarrassment and anger mixed on the elders' faces. Inside the passageway, they flew for 3 days and 3 nights. Tiredness came onto the faces of the sect leader and the elders. At the end of the stone stairs was a copper door. Stand guard outside. The sect leader said coldly. All the other elders released a breath and nodded. Their expressions when they looked at the copper doors were filled with terror and respect. The sect leader inhaled, pushed open the door and disappeared inside. Uncle Zhong, for my father's sake, please help this nephew this once. The sect leader's tone was low, his body bowed as he said sorrowfully, we were defeated 3 times in a month. Shixian's weakness has been exposed. The surrounding factions are looking to make a move. I have investigated our battalions, they are rotten to the core. In this enormous Shixian, there is no battalion that can fight. The large man in front of him had an indifferent expression. The large man sat on the chair. His body was brawny like a tower of metal. Just sitting there, he gave people a strong, suffocating pressure. His short hair stood up straight like wires, but was almost completely white. Scars crisscrossed horrifically on his face. His gray pupils did not hold any emotion. Any exposed part of his body was covered in a dense mat of scars that were startling to see. There were 2 males standing on either side of the large man. Both of these men were also covered in scars. I have already repaid your father's favor, the large man said coolly. I need to guard the Fiend Abyss jail, find someone else. Bam. The sect leader suddenly knelt on the ground and started to cry. Uncle Zhong, Shixian is in danger, please save Shixian. If you do not act, Shixian will be destroyed. Uncle Zhong, if you are willing to come out, this nephew is willing to give up the position of sect leader. The large male was indifferent and unaffected. See the guests out. The two men standing solemnly next to him suddenly released a sea of murderousness that hit the sect leader like a tsunami. The sect leader's body shook. He resisted the bone-piercing murderousness, and suddenly stopped crying. He gritted his teeth and said, "If Uncle Zhong is willing to come out of the mountain, this nephew is willing to construct the tomb of Yunji." Boom. The sect leader felt as though he was hit with a great hammer, flying out into the air dozens of zhong. The large man's gray eyes were bloodshot. For the first time his face changed. The sect leader ignored the blood dripping from his mouth, and struggled to climb up. Yunji's contribution to our Shixian is great. When the tomb of Yunji is finished, I will announce as the sect leader for the core disciples and all the elders to come and mourn. Your father told you this story before he died. The large man became indifferent again. The sect leader's face paled. He was shocked. He hadn't thought that Uncle Zhong had been able to guess this. So he knew before that Yunji was innocent. The large man said to himself. His voice was desolate. I asked to guard the Fiend Abyss jail. 50 years, I hadn't thought that father and son have continued to scheme against me. The sect leader's expression was ashen. Where are her bones? The large man suddenly asked. The sect leader felt that Uncle Zhong's gaze was like a pair of pincers that held him. He was almost unable to breathe and unconsciously said, "In a secret room. Father had made an altar to her." The pressure on him eased. He collapsed on the ground and panted, looking in terror at Uncle Zhong. A moment later the large man suddenly said, "I will agree." The sect leader stilled and was overjoyed. "Many thanks, Uncle Zhong, many thanks, Uncle Zhong." The tomb of Yunji must be built within 2 years. The large man suddenly looked sardonically at the sect leader. The scar-covered face became unspeakably strange and terrifying. No matter how much your father schemed, he could not have expected that I only have 3 years left to live. The sect leader was stunned. Zuo was extremely busy. He increasingly felt that he needed a skilled manager. Right now, the main steward of Mo Cloud Sea was a Ming, a local of Cloud Sea Jia that Baoyi had recommended. Baoyi had been a small-time black market dealer from Little Mountain Jia. He had felt the great pressure once Mo Cloud Sea expanded, his hair almost turning white. He coincidentally found that a Ming had good talent and promoted him. Later, a Ming had become the main steward. Baoyi went back to guarding the resource stores, and his days were easy now. Cloud Sea Jia was organized under a Ming's management, yet the present Mo Cloud Sea was multiple times larger than back then. A Ming was struggling. The present Mo Cloud Sea was 69 Jia in size, including the 3 Jia under the rule of Rare Artifact Hall. This included a great number of resource Jia, the complex flow of materials, battalion supplies, and searches for talent were complex. After Zuo had returned, a Ming immediately sighed in relief. There were some decisions he did not dare make on his own. For example, the problem of production. Golden Crow Camp possessed a great ability to produce, and was the greatest source of income for Mo Cloud Sea. What to produce was undoubtedly the greatest question, especially in this era of turbulence and rapid change. Other than Zuo, no one dared to make the decision. Problems like this were all left to Zuo. Zuo had a hard time. He desperately desired an outstanding manager. At this time, he realized that an outstanding manager's value was no less than a top battle general. He was jealous of Guliang Dao. While Xiao had no offensive abilities, but he was talented at management. Guliang Dao did not have to worry about any of this, and could focus on training his troops and fighting. A Ming was talented, but lacking greatly compared to Xiao. Management talent? Pu Yao also frowned. This kind of skill is not easy to find and recruit. Think of a way. By any means necessary. At any price. Zuo bared his teeth. And I will pay attention. Pu Yao nodded. Zuo suddenly thought of something and asked curiously. How about your Pupus home for battle generals? How is that going? Pu Yao's expression was smug. There are some good seeds. Zuo was even more interested. Those that Pu Yao said were good probably had great talent. He immediately had a drooling expression. How about it? Can you pull them over? I can make a few battalions for them to play with. With Mo Cloud Sea's present wealth, Zuo had enough assets to say something like this. I have other arrangements. Pu Yao unhesitatingly refused Zuomo's suggestion. You are not good like this. Zuomo pressed. Pu Yao glanced at him. I heard that there are few good ones from the battle general school. One should not bite off more than they can swallow. Good battle generals do not come from being taught, but through fighting. Zuomo smiled weakly. He knew that Pu Yao was right. His greed had just came up. Fortunately, his face was thick, and this was just a usual matter. Lend Nan Yu and the others for me to use for a time, Pu Yao said. Zuomo nodded. All right. If Pu Yao spoke so formally, then it meant it was a serious matter. If it was something devious, this guy wouldn't make a sound. Looking at Wei, who was in a meditative state, Zuomo asked Pu Yao, when will Wei wake up? I don't know. Pu Yao shook his head. He needs time to adjust to the changes in your Shen power. You really are a freak. Your Shen power has advanced too quickly. Pu Yao was shocked by Zuomo's improvement rate. In 7 years, Zuomo had always maintained an astounding rate of progress which had not shown any signs of slowing down. Zuomo nodded. Have you seen those people from Kunlun? If I'm any slower, I will just be able to eat the ashes when it is over. Pu Yao was silent. While he had fought countless times against Kunlun in the 1,000-Year War, yet Kunlun, after such a long time of peace, was still working to advance. Even an enemy like Pu Yao had to admire the present Kunlun. In these 7 years, the ones that were fighting on the front lines were all elders. In these 7 years, the number of Kunlun elders that died surpassed the last 300 years added together. Of the Kunlun elders, there were less than 1/3 left. The sacrifices of their fathers, masters, and elders moved the genius youth of Kunlun. They didn't need supervision or additional motivation. They furiously and silently cultivated day and night, without rest and regard for their lives. The sacrifice of 2/3 of the elders over 7 years finally showed their astounding power. A large group of young yet powerful youths started to appear out of Kunlun. These youths that grew up in the time that the elders traded their blood for were filled with a sense of responsibility. They were unprecedented in their unity. They possessed astounding self-control. They were like their elders, not afraid of sacrifice. This kind of Kunlun made people feel terror, made the entire world feel terror. Even Zuomo felt the pressure from Kunlun. Suddenly, a paper crane flew over. Zuomo's expression turned serious. He opened the paper crane. Shixian's famous general Zhongde has come back out. He led the Abyss Jail Battalion and blood washed the Central Plains. 13 Shixian elders were executed. Their bodies left exposed to the elements for 10 days. He killed more than 7,000 people, the blood flowing in rivers. Chapter 748. The beginning of expansion. The reappearance of Zhongde was akin to an earthquake for all of the 4 realms. To the young people, this name was unfamiliar. But for those older, they all changed expression when they spoke of him. When people found the life history of this old general from the records, their hearts shook, they stopped breathing, and their lips tasted the thick tang of blood. The heart-shaking battle campaigns, even after 50 years of dust, still caused people's hearts to beat frantically. The first thing that Zhongde did after returning was to make a great cleansing of Shixian. He killed so many of the upper ranks that it had never happened before in the history of the 4 realms. Shixian was dyed in blood, and the central region of Shixian, the Central Plains, was soaked in blood. Countless Shixian battle generals heard of this, and hurriedly fled in the night. The outside world learned later that in the span of a short month, the commanders of 39 battalions had disappeared. And in the unprecedented cleansing process, the true number of people from Shixian that were executed was 30,000, and not 7,000 as previously believed. Under Zhongde's iron fist, not even one rebellion occurred. Soon, Zhongde, whose hands were covered in blood, once again showed the world his cruel and vicious style. He did not wait for the sect to finish reorganizing, did not care about the instability of the sect. He suddenly led the Abyss Prison Battalion to appear on the borders of Shixian. In a lightning-fast campaign, he destroyed 3 factions. This was a retaliation. The 3 factions destroyed were the 3 factions that had recently defeated Shixian's battalions. This seemingly normal retaliatory action shocked the world again. Because the cities were massacred. Even though fighting had occurred for so many years, massacring everyone was rare. Even in battles between the Xiuzha and Yaomo, the 17 cities of the three Jia became a desolate land. Such cruel actions caused condemnation from the rest of the four realms. Crowds of people were furious. They called him cruel, bloodthirsty, savage, and emotionless, butcher and all sorts of other words to describe the old general. But no matter how they criticized, no battalion dared to advance on Shixian. The people were filled with deep terror and fear of this inhuman battle general. When enough blood had been split, there naturally would be peace. These became famed words spoken by Zhongda. All of Shixian trembled. The factions surrounding Shixian trembled. No one dared to say that Shixian was the second Xiankong temple. Even people who hated Shixian had to admit that Shixian's rise could not be stopped, even if its rise was by struggling up from the mud and mired in blood. Sweeping away its decline, Shixian was at peace again. However, after 5 years at rest, the major sects that had focused on their own development had now finished their preparations to fight again. This time Kuan-Luan moved first. Kuan-Luan had begun to move. Zuomo's expression was grave. In front of him, everyone else was grave as well. They knew that one day, Kuan-Luan would become an enemy they had to face. The indescribable pressure of Kuan-Luan always was a stone weighing on their minds. Our present holdings are 69 jie, Gongsun Cha said calmly. After digesting Xiankong Temple, Kuan-Lun's dominion is about 1,300 jie. Tianhuan holds 1,100 jie. Shixian has not developed much and holds about 800 jie. The 9 great Dynana sects hold about 600 jie. Guliang Dao's faction controls 142 jie. These are the public numbers, and the numbers of those jie controlled secretly are hard to calculate. Also, each faction have always been working to take the surround factions to strengthen themselves. If we face them now, we have no chance of victory. What is fortunate is that between us and Kuan there are the 9 great Dhyana sects, Tianhuan and Shixian. While Mo Cloud Sea is slightly remote, there are no strong enemies around. This is our advantage. The Jie map on the wall clearly showed Mo Cloud Sea's boundaries. Of the entire 4 realms, it was a tiny piece. While everyone was familiar with these numbers, they still inhaled sharply. The enormity of Kuan-Luan and Tianhuan was suffocating. He Ming stood up and then said, "In the past few years, our strength has grown quickly. Abundant resources in addition to our great production abilities, as well as our mature trade channels. Our wealth accumulation has been good. The frontline battalions have all completely been refitted with the new Mo Cloud system, Shin equipment. It is one of the top battalion Shin raiments on the market, and the inventory we have is satisfactory." When he spoke of this, the battle generals present nodded and were full of confidence. This was true. While Mo Cloud Sea was not large at present, but its equipment was among the best of the world. As Shin power developed, talismans had gradually left the world stage to be replaced by Shin equipment. Shin equipment was the lesser version of Shin devices. It was not as powerful as Shin device raiments, but it did not strain the user as much as Shin device raiments did. Most importantly, it was not as expensive to create as Shin device raiments. Mo Cloud Sea's Mo Cloud system, Shin equipment had always been one of the outstanding Shin equipment on the market. Together with Kuan-Luan system and Tianhuan system, it was ranked as the top tier and collectively were called the 3 great Shin equipment. Even Shixian's Shixian system and the 9 great Dhyana sects Dhyana system were on a lower level. The level of the Shin equipment required understanding of Shin power, skill in forging, and rich resources. In the short term, no one would be able to shake the status of the 3 great systems. In reality, while Mo Cloud Sea's territory was not large, there were rarely people who would think of them as a small local power. They produced top-level Shin equipment, had 2 top battle generals. They did not have a large territory but had abundant resources. No one dared to look down at them. Inside Mo Cloud Sea were strong beings that were full of confidence and didn't know what fear was. Everyone turned to look at Mo. No matter if it was Gong Sun Cha's analysis or He Ming's words, the one who would make the final decision would be Mo. We need to expand. When Mo spoke, Everyone became energized, especially the battle generals. They had fought in the past with Lil Miss, and felt rusty after being inactive for so many years. In truth, everyone knew that in the present situation, expansion was their own option. While Mo Cloud C looked as steady as a rock, that was because there was the 9 great Diana sects in the between them and their enemies. If they waited for Kuan Luan and Tian Huan to grow bigger, when the time arrived, they wouldn't even be able to protect themselves. While the Jinji defense line was strong, but if Kuan Luan and Tian Huan disregarded the loss of life, it would not be difficult to overcome. Mo Cloud C could rival them in elite battalions, but was lacking greatly in normal battalions. Just a battle of numbers was enough to destroy Mo Cloud C several times over. Only by expanding Mo Cloud C and strengthening itself could they possess the power to fight back. Maybe other people were willing to submit to the other powers, but for the core members of Mo Cloud C, this was definitely impossible. The first to disagree would be Mo. He had great grudges to settle with Kuan Luan, Tian Huan and Xixian. He was fated to only have the path of fighting to the end. The reason they hadn't chosen to expand before was that their foundation was shallow. It was easy to conquer territories, but they didn't have the ability to digest it. Blind expansion would cause internal problems and weaken their defense against other factions. However, after the past several years of development, the present Mo Cloud C had the ability to expand now. The present question is, which direction do we expand in? Mo threw out the problem, and the atmosphere in the room suddenly became fiery. 9 great Diana sects. They look like they have a lot of people, but they definitely cannot fight. Other than Yang Yuan Hao, they don't have anyone else. Yes, the 9 great Diana sects. I heard that they were fighting among themselves. This is a good chance. The 9 great Diana sects were the 4th greatest power in the Xiuzhou world, but their inner conflicts were fierce. Their system was similar to the Yao Council of Elders. The 9 sect leaders formed a sect leader council to govern the entire region together. Since the 9 great Diana sects were about the same in power, internal conflict had never stopped since the day they formed. It was only a loose alliance that was not united enough. What was most fatal was that they lacked top battle generals. The 9 great Diana sects only had one top battle general, Yang Yuan Hao. This was not equal to their status as one of the 4 great Xiuzhou powers. In comparison, Mo Cloud C possessed 2 top battle generals. No one dared to underestimate them. If Xixian hadn't been extremely weak before Zhongde had come back, the 9 great Diana sects would be the faction that people had the worst outlook on. Listening to the people chat, Mo thought inside. He had been pondering this question a long time ago. This kind of strategic decision would directly affect their future development. No, we will not fight against the 9 great Diana sects. Mo spoke. Everyone immediately closed their mouths to listen carefully. The 9 great Diana sects are like a shield. As long as this shield is not damaged, we do not need to directly face the superpowers like Kuan Luan. We should not attack them, rather, we should support them so they do not have to worry about their rear. The best scenario would be for them to fight against Kuan Luan and Tian Huan. That is most beneficial for us. Gong Sun Cha and Bihan nodded. Mo's analysis was reasonable. Hadn't they always wanted to purchase our Mo cloud system, Shin equipment? Sell to them. We need to support them as much as we can so they will fight with Kuan Luan and Tian Huan. Yang Yuan Hao is very strong, and they will likely be fighting a defensive war on home territory, they the advantage. It will not be easy for Kuan Luan and the others to win. Many people nodded inwardly. Then where do we expand? Someone asked in puzzlement. Other than the 9 great Diana sects, the others were all small factions. While it was not costly to fight, the benefits were also small. After taking down 56 Jia in one go, they did not care about these little pieces. These little factions were small in land and scarce in resources. We will expand towards the Mo territories. Mo's answer was unexpected. Everyone stilled, but many people's expressions started to turn existed. The Mo territories had vast lands, rich resources. People like a Zhagu, Sherdong, and Ian had desired to expand into the Mo territories. Yet Mo had always seemed uninterested in the Mo territories which had disappointed them. Who do we attack first? Lei Ping's eyes were bright. The Emo Martial Alliance. Zhou Emo said unhesitatingly. Gong Sun Cha and Bihan were slightly surprised. In the 100 Savage realm, the Emo Shin Temple was the strongest, followed by the Emo Martial Alliance led by Martial D, then the Heroes Alliance at third. Everyone thought that Zhou Emo would first start with the weakest, the Heroes Alliance, but Zhou Emo unexpectedly targeted the Emo Martial Alliance. Our goal is 100 energy Jia. Zhou Emo's heated gaze was full of desire. Chapter 749. Starting from the beginning, Zhou Emo had desired 100 energy Jia since discovering the Shin crystals. In these past years, Zhou Emo had continued to send in spies to find the general location of the Shin crystal mine. However, the Shin crystal veins were hidden well and hard to quietly extract. Also, it was blocked off by a layer of fragmented star metal. This was also why the Shin crystals hadn't been found and harvested by others after many years. 100 energy Jia was under the rule of the Emo Martial Alliance. If he wanted to extract these Shin crystals, there was only one way: take 100 energy Jia. The Emo Martial Alliance had developed rapidly in the recent years. The Emo Martials, led by Martial D, were wealthy to start with. Each person that could reach martial level was a strong individual. Ever since they watched the battle between Zhou Emo and the Yao elders, they had a new understanding of Shin power. Most of them chose to go into seclusion to cultivate and create a Shin power that belonged to their clan. The Emo were varied with subtypes and each clan possessed their unique bloodline. Unlike the Shin power of the Emo Shin Temple, the Emo Martial Alliance focused on upgrading their bloodline, using the Emo physique as a base to obtain Shin power. This Shin power cultivation method quickly became the mainstream for the Emo territories. Its greatest advantage was that it could express the power of the Emo physique, and one did not need to restart their cultivation from the beginning. The Heroes Alliance also chose to use this cultivation method. Because of the differences in Emo physique, the Shin methodologies they each used were different. Each family knew that Shin methodologies were crucially important to their clan's future, and gathered all of their strength to overcome this obstacle. This kind of Shin power was called Emo Shin power. The Emo Shin Temple, who was advanced in Shin power, actually became the exception. This, however, did not affect the status of the Emo Shin Temple. The three great Emo gods were unstoppable in the recent years, their territory expanding rapidly to become the strongest faction in 100 Savage realm. The strong Emo Martial Alliance did not cause them to feel fear. Once Zhou Emo determined the target, the battle generals, led by Gong Sun Cha and Bihan, started to move. A plan around the goal of taking over 100 energy Jia secretly took form. Pu Pu's home for battle generals had some fame among the Yao battle generals. The students performed outstandingly in war chess, even defeating several of the military battle generals in succession, which had caused its fame to rise. However, not many people cared. Even the active battle generals that had been defeated did not think too much of the defeat. No matter how realistic war chess was, there were still great differences between war chess and true battle. It was not strange for a battle general strong in war chess to be terrible in real combat. There were also many loose organizations like this among the Yao. The members that Pu Pu's home for battle generals took in were those battle generals who were not very strong. These people had average marks in the Yao art houses, some of them just barely managing to pass. Students like this usually had a hard time entering a battalion. If one did not have a strong background, they would need great talent to enter a battalion. Pu Pu's home for battle generals were relaxed in their management of their members. It was easy to enter, and effortless to leave. Naturally, no one would pay attention to an organization like this. The most famous member of Pu Pu's home for battle generals was Liang Wei. But no battalion had thrown an olive branch out to this disgraced battle general. The one who had relieved him of command was Corp Commandant, someone who had real power in the military, and his experience among all of the Yao was at the top. His background was strong, and no one was willing to risk offending Corp Commander and sure to recruit Liang Wei into their command. Liang Wei also liked to fight and had a wild personality. He looked like a troublemaker, and there were rarely people who wanted a troublemaker under their command. Liang Wei had been idle at home for 7 years, and no battalion had made any offer for him. The laughter and taunts against Liang Wei grew in more unrestrained. The reputation that Pu Pu's home for battle generals had among the battle general circle of being the failure camp grew and solidified. The battle generals that thought themselves strong disdained this place. Ever since some active battle generals were defeated, no one liked to come here. There was nothing worthy of praise if they won, but if they lost, their comrades would laugh at them for a long time. Affected, many irresolute students left. The students left were all those that were not affected by the rumors outside. Compared to the mockery outside, the students inside Pu Pu's home for battle generals were unusually quiet. These students, for the most part, had studied for more than 3 years at Pu Pu's home for battle generals. The great majority of them had their own jobs, and would only have the time to come at night. If they could not enter a battalion, then it was not easy for battle general students to find work. What interested them the most was the simulation match each week. Even now, they did not know the identity of Pu Pu's home for battle generals founder. However, they could clearly feel that the other was strong. This kind of feeling was especially strong during the simulation match. When this time came, Pu Pu would personally come. The simulation chess was even more realistic than war chess. Every student who attended the simulation chess match for the first time was astonished, but they would be quickly sucked in. The strange and variable tactical style, and the unfathomable power of the person called Pu Pu made them feel hopeless each time. Every week, the hottest topic of discussion was how long someone could survive against Pu Pu's hand. The record holder had always been Liang Wei. Today was the same as usual. Liang Wei still struggled to endure under the other's barrage of attacks. Even though he was already used to the strength of the opponent, but every match, that unstoppable pressure made him feel suffocated. The only thing comforting was that he had started to be able to tolerate this feeling of suffocation. Complete defeat. He panted furiously and was soaked in sweat. He looked at the time and was slightly happy. Compared to last time, he had survived a half-hour longer than before. He was preparing to leave the simulation chess like usual when Pu Pu, standing on the opposite side, suddenly spoke. The simulation chess is unable to help you improve any more. Liang Wei stilled. He stopped walking. The thread of joy from his achievement immediately disappeared without a trace. He suddenly felt empty. In these years, coming to Pu Pu's home for battle generals every day had almost become a habit. His mind had only stopped being restless because he could feel he was continuously improving. If Pu Pu's home for battle generals could not make him improve any further, and he did not have to come here, then where should he go? Other than fighting, he didn't know anything else. If he hadn't had accumulated savings in the early years, it would be a problem for him to even live. When Pu Pu said this place could not improve here, in that moment, he felt clueless and bewildered. But he was a battle general that had been tempered in blood and fire. His resolve was far stronger than normal people. He focused and asked, "Then what can make me improve?" True battle. Liang Wei dimmed. Gradually, his lips turned in a grimace. He knew that Pu Pu was right. While he had never seen Pu Pu's true appearance, he was still filled with respect towards Pu Pu. He was unlike the other students. He had seen the world and had fought against many strong people. Pu Pu was the strongest battle general he had ever seen. He could not understand what such a great battle general was doing here within a small battle general school. He concluded that Pu Pu might be in a situation similar to himself. Either he was disliked by his superior officer, or he was being isolated by his peers, or there were other reasons that he started this battle general school to waste away time. Where is their true battle? Liang Wei smiled in self-mockery. If you are willing, I can think of a way. However, the conditions will be harsh. You need to be mentally prepared, Pu Pu said. Liang Wei was really stunned this time. A moment later, he asked suspiciously, "You really have a way?" "You are very talented, but if you keep on being wasted, you will never have any hope of entering the ranks of the true top battle generals." Pu Pu's voice seemed to come from afar away, but hit Liang Wei's fragile heart. Liang Wei suddenly raised his head. "Who are you really? Do you really care who I am? You only care if you can enter the battlefield again. You only care if you can get revenge. As long as I am not Kunlun, will you care about anything else?" Pu Yao asked in response. Liang Wei's body shook slightly. You investigated me? You? With your past, is it even an investigation? Pu Yao continued to ask in response. Liang Wei was silent. While not everyone knew of his history, but there were innumerable people among the battle general circles that knew. What do you want me to do? Liang Wei asked in a deep voice. Do what you are most skilled at, Pu answered. Which battalion? Liang Wei felt as though something was burning inside his body. The flames burned at his heart, and the temperature of his blood continued to rise. A group of rabble, they only have completed basic training. Pu didn't change at all. Liang Wei was slightly disappointed. HRMPH, did you really think that a trained battalion would be given to you? It seems that you do not have a deep enough understanding of your situation. If you want to return to the battlefield, you have to start over from the beginning. Pu was not polite. Liang Wei nodded. You are right. Also, only a battalion that you built with your own hands will be a battalion that truly belongs to you. All of your ideas can be realized through them. You will be the leader of the battalion. Liang Wei felt there was an indescribable temptation in Pu's words. In a few short sentences, his heart was moved, and he felt that burning once again. This guy was a true demon. All right. Liang Wei nodded and then asked, You are sure we will fight against Kurenluan? Do not worry about this, we are mortal enemies with Kurenluan. Pu's voice was also filled with pleasure. Starting from the beginning, I need some helpers. Liang Wei had already started to consider the practicalities. You can pick anyone from Pu's home for battle generals. You should know their strength. Give a list to me, and I will persuade them, Pu said. Liang Wei's confidence increased. There were some outstanding students. More importantly, everyone was familiar with each other. They had built trust with each other, and this would spare a lot of trouble in the future. A battalion built with these people as the framework, it really made one anticipate. All right, I need to go back and think. I will give the list to you tomorrow. Liang Wei felt as though he couldn't wait. No problem. Pu's response was brisk. When the other students found Liang Wei as he came out of the simulation chess, they were all shocked. The Liang Wei in front of them seemed to be a completely different person, giving off endless fighting spirit and sharp edges. Chapter 750, Blackfire. Boss, they've arrived, the subordinate respectfully reported. He licked his lips. His gaze when he looked towards the shadow was full of respect and awe. Has everything been arranged? A deep voice came from within the shadow. All arranged. The subordinate hurriedly responded. See them to the evening banquet hall. The subordinate was slightly shocked. Boss almost never met other people, and the number of people that saw Boss' true appearance could be counted on the fingers. He now found that he underestimated the importance Boss placed on these guests. He hurriedly lowered his head and said, I will go arrange it immediately. And go. An indifferent voice came out of the shadow. The subordinate turned and left. A red-haired youth stepped out of the shadows. His long and narrow eyes were deep and dark. The blue crystal at his brow occasionally flashed with light. He seemed to be one with the shadow and darkness. He had a thoughtful expression on his face. The present Yu Qinlai was far too changed from that rebellious youth of the past. He was now a famed person in the underworld. He had countless able people under his command, and he had amassed great power. Even the local factions had to give him some face. The name of Blackfire had some reputation in the underworld. As his influence increased, Yu Qinlai began to hide himself in the shadows and rarely made appearances. So when Yu Qinlai decided to hold a banquet for the guests, his subordinates were all astonished. However, these people were the most skilled at concealment and control. While they were extremely curious, they maintained their professionalism and did not show it on their face. In their eyes, Boss was unfathomable. This unfathomable was not referring to his individual fighting ability. Among Blackfire, Yu Qinlai rarely fought. No one knew how strong he truly was. However, every person was filled with respect and awe towards Boss. In the underworld, things like betrayal, assassination, and conspiracy would never end. However, no matter how carefully planned or well hidden the other's plan was, Boss had never failed to counteract it. Even facing a terrifying existence like the Council of Elders, he was still able to organize a withdrawal with all of them remaining unharmed, and without leaving any trace. Everyone in Blackfire was filled with respect and awe towards Boss. His unfathomable and skilled way of acting, his vicious and ruthless style, his fairness to his subordinates and the strictness of the organization. None of their missions had ever failed. Boss had a maturity and viciousness in his command that was beyond his years. In the eyes of the subordinates, Boss was born a king of the underworld. In a hidden estate that was heavily guarded. All the important people in Blackfire arrived. Chai Shanqing was scholarly in appearance with a faint smile hanging on his face. He wore green robes as though he was a teacher in a Yao art house. In actual truth, he taught music in a famed Yao art house and was well respected by his students. Who would have those? This elegant middle-aged person was the famed and vicious Blackfire's third in command. It seems that Boss is going to show himself. Chai Shanqing laughed lightly. The male beside him was completely wrapped up in a black robe. Only a pair of gray eyes showed. If one didn't see him with their own eyes, normal people would definitely not detect a person was there. The fourth in command of Blackfire, Wu Ying. He was skilled in sneaking and assassination. As a testament to his skill, innumerable powerful people had died by his hand. Wu Ying was silent as though he hadn't heard these words. Chai Shanqing was used to the other being so and said to himself with a laugh, "I'm very curious about Boss' origins." Before he finished saying this, the feeling of cold metal rose against his throat. A sharp murderousness intent reached his neck like an extended dagger. He said with slight helplessness, Hey, I'm just talking, aren't you also curious?" The murderousness disappeared as though nothing had occurred. Chai Shanqing had an expression of helplessness. He knew that Wu Ying was faithfully loyal to Boss. Wu Ying would unhesitatingly kill anyone that would threaten Boss. He couldn't help but mutter, "You are so ruthless to treat me so." Wu Ying seemed to not hear it. A wondrous voice came from behind them. "Stop fooling around, the guests are about to arrive." Chai Shanqing heard this voice and shuddered. Even Wu Ying's body imperceptibly tensed. An astoundingly beautiful woman walked over with a smile. The tight black evening dress emphasized her hot body, her arms bare, and the snowy dip causing people's blood to burn. She had curly blonde hair and a seductive presence. Chai Shanqing and Wu Xing feared her like she was a snake. She was the second in command of Blackfire, Tao Wei. Tao Wei threw a flirtatious look at the two before striding next to Yu Qinlai and docilely standing to one side. Yu Qinlai's narrow eyes were deep and his emotions hidden. He seemed to be the same as usual, but everyone present had a strong feeling that today was definitely an important day. Soon, a group of people were lead over under the guidance of a subordinate. Yet what shocked Tao Wei, Chai Qingshan and the others was that Boss walked down from the stairs and moved to greet them. Even though they had been prepared mentally, they were still stunned when they saw this. "I am Yu Qinlai." A cool voice that one could not hear any emotion from. "I am Liang Wei." Liang Wei looked at the other warily. The other was not old, about the same age as him. The feeling of darkness on the other caused him to frown slightly. As a battle general, Liang Wei lacked any good feelings about people that moved in the shadows. "A banquet has been prepared, please come with me," Yu Qinlai said coolly. Finishing, he turned and walked away. Liang Wei hesitated slightly and then followed closely, saying, "You are too polite." The idleness of these past years had caused his interpersonal skills to improve. Walking into the yard, what he saw was simple and not luxurious as he had imagined. This caused Liang Wei to hold a slightly better opinion of the other. In his impressions, those factions of the darkness were usually ostentatious and lived luxurious lives. If the power he was serving was faction of the dark, Liang Wei would be slightly disappointed. He had always speculated which faction Pu Pu belonged to, but had always thought of the major factions. In his view, a small faction could not possess or support such a strong battle general. Everyone sat in their seats. The other people did not think as much as Liang Wei. Pu Pu had recruited and persuaded them with simple conditions, a generous salary and money to establish a home. For these people, they were satisfied with being able to do what they liked and receiving rich rewards. Also, they had stayed for a long time at Pu Pu's home for battle generals and trusted its owner. Liang Wei was observing Yu Qinlai, while Yu Qinlai and his group were also observing the guests. Especially Chai Shanqing. He was elegant, and his words made people feel comfortable. While Liang Wei was wary, the other people with him quickly spilled the beans. Battle generals. These people were all battle generals. Chai Shanqing and the others were greatly shocked. In the world of darkness, there was no place for battle generals to exist. The world of darkness was a word filled with deceit, conspiracy and assassination. The battles of the underworld was silent, and the people that lived in the same city as them would not detect anything. The factions of the dark that possessed battalions died out the fastest. The darkness was their best protection. Enormous battalions would cause them to lose the protection of the darkness and move the organization towards death. Only those truly public factions could possess battalions, would need battalions. Boss did have a background. At this time, the perceptive Chai Shanqing immediately recalled where he had heard the name Liang Wei before. The dismissal in his eyes disappeared. This young battle general that had been famed for a time had been recruited by the faction behind Boss. The higher-ups have a few things they wanted me to tell you, Yu Qinlai said coolly. Liang Wei unconsciously sat up and said solemnly, "Please speak." The other people stopped conversing and perked up their ears. Liang Wei's commanders showed intent expressions. This was related to their future. The base has been prepared. You will go and take the position of the highest commander of the battalion. All of the resources have been transported to the base. You need to finish selection and organization before the 12th month of this year. In other words, you have 6 months to build the battalion. At the 6th month of next year, you need to finish basic training and find the battle style suited to you. The higher-ups will forge Shin equipment according to your selected battle style. Liang Wei's heart shook slightly. The faction was able to forge Shin equipment. As expected, a big faction. Those that could forge Shin equipment right now were definitely big factions. The other people present inhaled sharply, especially Yu Qinlai's subordinates. They had guessed long ago that Boss had a background, but they hadn't thought that it would be so great. The delivery of equipment is temporarily set at 3 months. They hope that you can become battle-ready as soon as possible. When you are all outfitted, you may be sent out on campaigns. Liang Wei frowned. The time is too tight. A battalion is not so easy to build. The deaths will be great when a new battalion goes to fight. Yu Qinlai said coolly. Then this is something you have to consider and prepare for. Liang Wei calculated inside. He did not argue. He had been prepared mentally. If the faction did have power and still used him, then the missions he received would not be a normal or easy one. He had prepared fully to the difficulties he was going to encounter. However, when he thought that this was the only way he could lead a battalion onto the battlefield again, he felt as though he was filled with endless energy. "How long is the trip to the base?" he asked. 13 days. "Time is tight, let's move now." Liang Wei pushed away from the table and stood. They had all heard what Yu Qinlai had just said. "Let's eat before leaving," Yu Qinlai said. "We can eat rations on the road," Liang Wei insisted. "All right." Yu Qinlai did not try to keep them. Quickly, under the ushering of the subordinates, Liang Wei's group hurriedly left. Tao Wei and the others stared at each other. They hadn't expected Liang Wei and the others to leave so quickly. Yu Qinlai sat down again. The other people saw this and knew that Boss definitely had other things to say to them. They hurriedly sat down as well. "Everyone prepare, we are going to go to war against snapped red silk." Yu Qinlai's words were like a huge bomb. Tao Wei and the others changed expression. Snapped red silk was not a small faction. Blackfire controlled only 13 Yaojies, and adding on the ones they had infiltrated, they only had 26. Yet Snapped Red Silk directly controlled over 18 Yaojies. Snapped Red Silk was stronger than they were. "Boss," Tao Wei couldn't help but say. She knew that this definitely was a mission that Boss higher-ups had ordered them to carry out, but in her view, this kind of mission could not be completed. "Do not worry, we are not fighting alone," Yu Qinlai said coolly. Everyone else couldn't help but shake. Chapter 751. Zhongru leaving seclusion Xixiang. This is Cloud Sijia. Yizheng said with a slight tone pride. Xixiang heard the pride in Yizheng's tone, and was slightly surprised. A faint smile appeared on his pale face. This showed that Shidi had been living well these past years. Along the way, they encountered people who would stop and bow towards Yizheng. Each time, Yizheng would stop and seriously return the bow. Xixiang could see that these people's respect of Yizheng came from their hearts. This made him even more happy and comforted. Thinking back to the past, the image of that mischievous and stubborn youth was still in front of him. Ever since Master had passed away, he had brought up Shidi. After his cultivation had been destroyed, Shidi had seemed to become a completely different person who was hardworking. He had been happy at Shidi's change but felt guilt and self-blame. When Shidi had disappeared and his fate was unclear, the blame had chewed on his heart. He could only use meditation every day to comfort his mind. Even though his cultivation was gone, his samadhi had grown. When Shidi had suddenly reappeared in front of him, his dhyana heart had been lost. I had passed on to them some dhyana cultivation advice. Their power at the time was terrible. At that time, I was an assistant to Master Zong. While I was busy, I was still very happy. Xixiang was on my mind all that time, but I didn't have a lot of money and I couldn't save to commission Xixiang's Lingdan. Yizheng was full of nostalgia and regret. He had gotten the Lingdan and given it to Xixiang, but there was no effect, so they had come to Mo Cloud Sea. In reality, when he saw the state of Xixiang's old temple where it sat half collapsed, the fury and discomfort he felt almost caused himself to lose control. Xixiang knew Yizheng well. Seeing the guilt on Yizheng's face, he knew, and changed the topic subtly. Master Zhong? Is he also a dhyana xiao? When Master Zong was mentioned, Yizheng became alert. Yes, Master Zong might be of an unorthodox background, but no one in Great Buddha Temple can compare to him. Oh, so strong, Xixiang said with a smile. He could see that Shidi was full of respect towards this Master Zong. Yes, Master Zong has reached wish power. There are not many in the temple that have achieved wish power. Yizheng looked around, and then said in a low voice, "It is even the Buddhahood abandonment death wish." Xixiang shook in shock. Buddhahood abandonment death wish. These 4 words caused him to unconsciously stop breathing. While Ling power had transformed to Shen power, with the changing times, the Buddhahood abandonment death wish still caused people to change expression. Where is he now? A hopeful light suddenly appeared in Xixiang's eyes. If he could obtain guidance from this kind of master, maybe his injury would have hope. Yizheng was slightly dispirited. 8 years ago, Master Zong went into death seclusion and hasn't come out. Death seclusion. Xixiang's eyes were wide and his expression changed. The 2 phrases, Buddhahood abandonment death wish and death seclusion, caused him to imagine a fearless dhyana xiao, stubborn and not willing to give himself any other choices on his path for advancement. Yes, it would be good if Master Zong came out. Master Zong would definitely have a solution for Xixiang's injury. Fortunately, Master Zong's Buddha lantern has not extinguished, Yizheng said with slight regret and joy. Just as he finished speaking, a bright light appeared on the horizon. Everyone in the sky stopped moving and looked with shock into the distance. The light was blinding, but there wasn't any sound. A vast presence suddenly exploded. The cloud sea around the cloud island suddenly roiled, and formed cloud waves of dozens of zhang each. The cloud sea roiled, the presence booming like thousands of snowy white monsters howling and snarling as they spread in all directions. Not good. Yizheng's expression changed slightly. In a flash, the cloud wave was coming at them like a collapsing wall, giving off a crushing feeling of being unstoppable. A light suddenly appeared on Yizheng's body. Faint golden scaled armor rippled and covered his body. At some time, a Vajra scepter appeared on his hand. The golden mask on his face held imperceptible mirth like that of a Buddha. Shen equipment. Xixiang's pupils suddenly expanded. While the place he had been residing in had been isolated and closed off from the world, he had heard of Shen equipment. Yizheng lightly tapped the Vajra scepter towards his feet, his left hand held straight up as he chanted. Faint golden light rippled from below his feet, and began to slowly cover the 2 of them. In a flash, a golden shield took form. Countless sutra characters swam like tadpoles on the surface of the golden shield. This was... Xixiang was filled with shock. Sure, this power was extremely strange. He could not name it, but he was certain that it definitely was not something from Great Buddha Temple. Suddenly, two words flashed in his mind like lightning to illuminate his mind. Shen power. He did not notice that Shen equipment had also appeared on the bodies of the people around them, because the astounding cloud wave was now right in front of them. Boom! The two were instantly drowned by the tall cloud wave. The golden light shield trembled, the sutra characters swimming even faster. Yi Zheng's eyes were wide, and he was clearly fighting back with all his power. Xixiang's mind was roaming. He suddenly thought of how he had protected Shidi in the past. But now Shidi was able to protect him. It was a short moment of reminiscing, but time seemed to stretch as he watched Shidi. Yi Zheng's lack of expression showed that he was fighting with all of his power. Xixiang quickly refocused and closed his eyes. He had had high-end cultivation before, once being one of the geniuses of Great Buddha Temple's younger generation. While he had lost his cultivation, he had spent all of his time on his samadhi, and his perception had become even more sensitive. Once he focused, he was slightly shocked. Shurda's present strength was even stronger than he had been in the past. This astonished him. He knew Shurda's talent. He did not have great talent. He himself in the past had been one of the most talented in the temple. Even in the present Great Buddha Temple, there were not many young people that had reached his past skill level. Shidi had grown to be so strong. A strange yet powerful power. Suddenly, he was filled with curiosity about Mo Cloud Sea. The cloud waves came endlessly. The two were like a wooden boat desperately swaying in the tsunami, unable to stay still. After making it through several cloud waves, Yi Zheng's body started to tremble, dense sweat appearing on Yi Zheng's forehead. Xixiang's expression became stern as he started to chant a sutra. His chanting was not loud, but each word was clear among the roaring of the cloud waves. Xixiang's chanting seemed to have an unique power to calm people's minds. Yi Zheng felt his mind calm down. His body stopped trembling. Threads of power suddenly appeared from deep within his body, and he became re-energized. At this time, a voice suddenly sounded in the sky. The howling roaring immediately disappeared. Scatter. The white cloud sea and the surroundings seemed to collapse and disappear like snow. In a flash, a figure with their palms together appeared in the sky. Behind him, there was the figure of a bald Buddha hundreds of zhang tall, who also had their hands in a praying position with a solemn expression. Seeing that familiar figure, Yi Zheng's body shook, uncontrollable joy appearing on his face. Master Zong. Xixiang raised his face to look dazedly at the giant Buddha true form behind Zong Ru, his mind completely blank. When his gaze met with the gaze of the Buddha's true form, his body couldn't help but tremble. The pupils of the Buddha were gray. Zong Ru had came out of seclusion. The cloud sea shook. It has been so long since we came back to the Yao world. I really miss it, Songzhe said wistfully. Most of the youthfulness on his face had disappeared, and he had become a much calmer person. Ming Juzi shook his head. I still feel that Cloud Sijia is better. I'm just remarking. Songzhe laughed at himself. Of course Cloud Sijia is better. I heard that the Yao are in chaos right now. The infighting among the Council of Elders is great. While everyone is polite on the surface, it is a mess down in the lower ranks. Nanyu did not make a sound. Listening to the conversation of the pair, her thoughts wandered. Were her friends from the Yao art house still all right? However, her thoughts were quickly interrupted by the noise coming from behind her. I'm telling you all this time you cannot block this genius road. Finally get a mission, wohaha. It is time for this genius light to shine on the bodies of minuscule beings like you. The orange-haired Yao laughed heartlessly. Owen shot back with a cold expression. Idiot. The black smoke Yao perceptively took 2 steps back to get further from the two. Trash, who are you calling an idiot? The orange-haired Yao glared angrily at Owen, but then smiled smugly. I know this is because you are jealous. You lost to me last time, wohaha. Your small and fragile heart received a destructive blow. I'm too strong. You only caught up and evened the score. Owen smiled coldly. If you don't believe me, ask Old Smoke. The orange-haired Yao stilled, and then turned to ask the black smoke Yao. Old Yao, did I only catch up? The black smoke Yao gave a prepared answer. And before he had won 622 times. You had won 621 times. The orange-haired Yao immediately howled. Ahaha! How can it be so? How can it be so? Come trash, let's fight now and see who is stronger. Let's go. Who's afraid of who? A one did not retreat and stared back angrily. Nanyu felt exasperated. How many times was it now on this trip alone? She turned her head. Boss said if you fight during the mission, you will be put under house arrest for 3 months. The two froze. The orange-haired Yao muttered. I'll let you off this time. If boss didn't protect you, I would let you taste your 623rd defeat. Owen responded. If boss didn't protect you, I will take your small life as easily as reaching into my pocket. The orange-haired Yao stilled. Who did you learn that line from? It seems very strong. Owen forced himself to not show his smugness, but his tone still exposed it. Old smoke. The black smoke Yao immediately knew it was not good. As expected, before he could react, the orange-haired Yao shot in front of him like a gust of wind. Old Yao, quick, think of a line better than that one. Suddenly, the group stopped and stared warily at the group in front of them. At the head was a youth that gave off a dark and cold presence. He stood silently. I have been eagerly waiting for your arrival. I am Yuqin Lai. Chapter 752. The little one's Mo Cloud Sea started to secretly move. This kind of movement was concealed from the outside world. Even in these years of peace, people had become used to the movements of battalions and the unusual focus on cultivation. Silently, several battalions appeared at Black Wuxia, which was under the control of Rare Artifacts Hall. Ever since Rare Artifacts Hall threw their lot in with Mo, they attracted the enmity of other Mo factions. Out of consideration for safety, Mo Cloud Sea built large numbers of seal formation forts at their borders. But Rare Artifacts Hall was founded in business, and the transportation of their inventory was not affected greatly. The events of Buzhou City had caused them to become famous. After that, with the support of Mo Cloud Sea, the quality of their wares increased greatly, and their wares were welcomed on the market. Even the Mo Martial Alliance bought large amounts of Mo weapons and supplies from Rare Artifacts Hall. Benefiting from this, their business avenues had always been smooth. Other than this, they continued to build blood pools to make the travel between the 3 jias of Rare Artifacts Hall and the other factions even more convenient. Transporting through blood pools was expensive, especially with large volumes, but it could greatly shorten the time spent and was much safer. Adding on that Rare Artifacts Hall was wealthy, they did not care about the expense of building blood pools. In one go, they built dozens of blood pools connecting them to the outside world. This meant that the Mo Martial Alliance was unable to cut off Rare Artifacts Hall from the outside, even if they wanted to. Ian, naturally, had to be present for such a great event, as the arrival of their battalions. But when he saw Bihan was in the lead, he was still shocked. He immediately understood the importance that the higher-ups placed on this battle campaign. Among Mo Cloud Sea's battle generals, Gongsun Cha and Bihan were of the same in status. While Bihan never managed any matters, his status was not something that other people could shake. Bihan was personally here. It definitely would not be a small fight. Darren. Ian immediately went forward to give a greeting. He was a core member, but he could not compare in status to Bihan. On the newest battle general ranking from the Xiuzhou world, Bihan was ranked 10th, an undoubted top battle general of the Xiuzhou world. The descriptions on the battle general ranking were detailed. The evaluators thought that Bihan's fighting abilities were astounding, his battle style dominant and fiery. He was strong offensively. The reason that he was ranked 10th was that his shortcomings in other areas were clear. For example, his soft skills were lacking and he did not take care or maintain relationships with his allies, or his reclusive personality. In the conclusion, Bihan was said to be a battle general with clear skills and shortcomings. He was strong offensively and weak defensively, and also, he was a battle general that needed strong support from the rear. This was also the reason that many people thought that Gongsun Cha was better than Bihan. Gongsun Cha's overall strength was more outstanding. He wasn't just strong at command, He was outstanding both offensively and defensively, as well as having taught a group of talented battle generals. There was no argument about his position on the battle general ranking. Almost all of the people in the battle general circles found it reasonable. But when the battle general ranking came out, the fact that Mo Cloud C possessed 2 top battle generals still caused a furor. However, when more of the details about Gong Sun Cha and Bihan's battles were made public, the voices of dissent gradually dissipated. On the newest battle general ranking, Zhongde from Xixian, who had come back out of nowhere, had directly stepped into second place, just under Kuan-Lun's Shuedong. The rankings, which had not changed for a few years, finally changed for the first time. But even so, Bihan still held on to the position of 10th. Along with Bihan's Sim Battalion came Sherdong and Yiling's Grey Camp, Ma Fan and his Green Dragon Camp, a Zhago Battalion, and Tongzi Battalion. Sherdong and Yiling had been partnered together for a long time and worked well together. Sherdong, who had once had a difficult time progressing in cultivation due to his birth, had been selected by Gong Sun Cha to the first group of battle generals to cultivate Shin power. He had treasured this chance. The strength and diligence he had shown won admiration from all the people around him. He had also improved rapidly and shockingly had moved into the ranks of gold battle generals. And a battle general like Yi Ling, who was skilled in understanding the larger picture, was a person that all the camps wanted. There was nothing to be said of the trio of Ma Fan, Lei Peng, and Yen Lu. They were also people that Gong Sun Cha had paid great attention to grooming. The 3 that had come from Vermilion Bird Camp did not fail Gong Sun Cha's efforts. Ma Fan was skilled in directing battle, and successively advanced to become a gold battle general. Lei Peng was strong, and was the one that led troops from the front. Nian Lu was detail-oriented and full of cunning. The 3 of them worked well together. Every time they fought in mock combat, they caused other people headaches. A Zhago had been a gold battle general to start with, and he was experienced in leading troops. As his clan set down roots in Mo Cloud C, and their lives continued to change, he could finally throw himself completely into matters of war. The style that a Zhago showed was frequently praised by Lil Mississippi. The main commander of Tongzi Battalion was Tang Fei, with Miao Jun as the vice commander. Tang Fei was talented and Miao Jun taught her all he knew. Adding on Gong Sun Cha's occasional guidance, she grew up extremely quickly as she fought against other battle generals to become a gold battle general herself. While she was female, her fighting style was strong and tenacious. Influenced by her, the battle style of Tongzi Battalion was also very steadfast, and they never feared going toe-to-toe with the enemy. After the nurturing and training of these years, all of the battalions with names in Mo Cloud C had good strength. Bihan was not skilled in being the commander-in-chief, but his insight into strategy and his perception when fighting was unrivaled by all in Mo Cloud C, except by Gong Sun Cha. He had thought deeply about the battalions he had picked to come with him this time. Grey Camp, a Zhago Battalion, and Tongzi Battalion were all battalions who had originated from the Mo territories. This was advantageous for their optics if they had them to attack the Mo territories. Green Dragon Camp was skilled in defense. They were selected in preparation for after taking down 100 energy Jia and having to turn to defense. Such a large number of battalions entering Blackwood Jia could not be disguised from people. All kinds of news quickly spread. Many factions were like alarmed birds. They shut their blood pools that were connected with Blackwood Jia. Rare Artifact Hall's business was greatly affected. All the major factions of the Mo territories went on their guard. Yet what they hadn't expected was that Bihan was faster than they had imagined. Before the news even reached the Mo Martial Alliance, Bihan's group of battalions had already stepped onto the border of the Mo Martial Alliance. The heavy iron door was pushed open a crack. Lil Pagoda leaned against the door and panted heavily. It was clearly exhausted. Lil Fire flew around its head as though it was trying to motivate the other. Lil Black stood up on its hind legs, its antenna waving furiously as it tried to cheer on Lil Pagod. However, Lil Black clearly was staying back. As it waved its antennae, it turned around to look. If something happened, it would immediately flee. Lil Pagoda rested for a moment and recovered. It climbed up and sneakily looked inside. Seeing that no one was inside, it immediately became happy, its eaves opening and closing like an umbrella. Then it sucked in its belly and tried to squeeze through the crack. Lil Pagoda's body was even rounder than before. Its body, which had been 5-colored before, was now black and white. Adding on its round and soft body, it appeared very much like a panda crouching there. This change had occurred the first time that Zhuamo's Shen power had made a great advancement. Yet Zhuamo found to his chagrin that this guy became even fatter and more gluttonous after that. The things it liked to eat were far beyond the scope of the 5 elements. It ate everything and liked things that were rare and strange. Zhuamo found, after inspection, that Lil Pagoda's attributes had shifted from the 5 elements to the dual attribute of yin and yang. The scope covered by yin-yang was much greater than the 5 elements. This was an unique progression. Phew! Lil Pagoda was like a rubber ball that squeezed through the crack in the door. The moment it did so, its soft and bouncy body bounced through the air. It flipped over a few times in the air before it managed to steady itself. Lil Fire happily flew a few circles in celebration before it followed. It turned into a thread of flame, and then turned back to its round figure after burrowing through the crack. Lil Black also sneaked in. The 3 Lil ones formed a triangle as they tiptoed like thieves. Suddenly, the light of a Jinji appeared under the feet of the trio. The 3 little bodies immediately froze. A figure walked out of the Jinzi's light. It was Zhuamo. I finally caught you in the act. Zhuamo had a vicious expression. These 3 little guys liked to eat the most and would never learn. Thinking about the Jingshur he had lost, Zhuamo felt great pain. Arrow. Lil Pagoda raised its chubby eaves to cover its face. Lil Fire shook. It turned and wanted to feel but was caught by Zhuamo. Then Zhuamo started to squeeze it. It could only spit out threads of fire in humiliation and grievous anger, according to Zhuamo's rhythm. With one hand gripping Lil Fire, a snarling Zhuamo was like a demon king in the eyes of Lil Black. Its antennae trembled. Pia, it fell back on the ground and pretended to be dead. Having caught the 3 little ones at the scene of the act, Zhuamo was smug. He took the 3 little ones over to Chun Yucheng's place. Chun Shitty, here, help me take a look and see if there are any ways to help them get stronger. Chun Yucheng's eyes were bright, and he was interested by the idea. The 3 little ones all had different abilities and were much more interesting than his cloud steeds. Under Chun Yucheng's strange gaze, the 3 little ones had ashen expressions. The least courageous one, Lil Black, trembled as though it was about to face torture. Let's go in and see, Chun Yucheng said briskly. Chun Yucheng's place to study husbandry was astounding in scale now. He took over a large-sized cloud island. Other than him, there were also his assistants that were also interested in husbandry. Some of them were Xiozha and some were Yaoma. They quickly came to a twin pool. The 2 pools were set up together and connected in the middle. The liquid in one pool was white and the other black. Mist floated off the white pool and turned into a cloud that supported a little white person. It was sunshine. There was a black lotus growing out of the black pool. On the inky black lotus, 10th grade dressed in black robes was sitting with his legs in lotus position, his little face solemn. They went deeper and flew to the entrance of a volcano. Inside the volcano, a large bird was completely immersed in the lava within. Silly bird seemed to detect people coming in, and opened her eyelids. Seeing Zhuamo, she closed her eyes with a safe and relaxed expression. Silly bird. She was originally a gray-beaked goose and then evolved into a blue-beaked snow goose. Theoretically, the probability of her evolution is not high, but I found there is a unique power inside her. This power had been continuously strengthening her body. She is already completely different from normal blue-beaked snow geese. She is fierce, and much more savage in personality than before. This allowed her to have more room to improve. When speaking of his field, Chun Yucheng immediately became energized and would endlessly talk. The quality of the earth fire here isn't bad, but it wasn't enough. I asked the people from Golden Crow Camp to come and remake the fire formation. The earth fire here is over 8th grade and contains Shen power. If it could finish its nirvana regeneration. Well, that is only for phoenixes, but I don't feel that only phoenixes can regenerate. You know that all birds. Seeing Chun Yucheng wasn't going to stop, Zhuamo's head swelled. He handed the 3 little ones to Shitty. Here they are in your care. No problem. Chun Yucheng's eyes lit up. Chapter 753. Commander-in-Chief Bihan. The first battle occurred suddenly. The Mo Martial Alliance had just been notified of Bihan's arrival, and the order to be on guard had not reached the front line, yet when the first fight between the two sides had finished, Bihan's full-speed attack had caught the enemy off guard. The battalion to make the sudden attack was Grey Camp. Sherdong's style was sharp and swift to being with, and after the improvement of these past years, Grey Camp under his command was like a sharp and thin knife that sliced through the not-so-tight defense of the other. This place was the border, but there were no important resources nor transportation routes, so the battalions stationed here were not strong. Facing Grey Camp that was outfitted with Shin equipment and well-trained, the defenses were quickly torn down after fighting for a few more moments. The battalions behind Grey Camp did not hesitate, and moved at full speed according to the battle plan. Grey Camp, who had defeated the enemy battalion, divided into many smaller groups that started to sweep the area at the opening they had created and kill the scattered soldiers to guarantee the safety of their rear. When the battalions belonging to Rare Artifacts Hall arrived, they switched. Sherdong took Grey Camp and hurriedly marched to catch up to the main army. At this time, the resistance that Bihan encountered suddenly increased. One reason was because the Mo Martial Alliance now caught up and started to set down defenses. The other was related to the location of 100 Energy Jia. There was a Jia one had to pass through to get to 100 Energy Jia, Bright Mountain Jia. Unlike the barrenness of 100 Energy Jia, Bright Mountain Jia was a prosperous intermediate Jia. It was the place where many Jia rivers passed through. It had a large population and was rich in resources. Due to its unique location, the Mo Martial Alliance had stationed large numbers of battalions there to guarantee its safety. If one wanted to take 100 Energy Jia, Bright Mountain Jia was unavoidable. Therefore, the Mo Martial Alliance set up a complete defense line around Bright Mountain Jia. A little Bright Mountain Jia possessed 2 Mo Martials. The power it had could be imagined. Among the Mo, a battle general's strength was directly connected to their individual strength. Mo Marshals were almost always both battle generals and individual experts. This was related to their method of fighting. Mo Marshals cultivated Shin power, and were limited in their accomplishments just like the Fanshu of the Xiuzha and the Sky Yao of the Yao. As young people talented in Shin power continuously appeared among the Yao and the Xiuzha, the Mo's upper levels were still held by the Mo Marshals. Because they could not progress greatly cultivating Shin power, their individual power continued to slip among the rankings of the 3 races. However, their command skill was not affected. Actually, while the effects of their Shin power on individual strength was limited, it was of significant help to one's ability direct in battle. As more and more Mo cultivated Shin power, the construction of battalions silently changed. Of the 2 Mo martial battalions that guarded Bright Mountain Jia, almost half of their members were strong in Mo Shin power. In the Mo territories, these 2 battalions were considered strong ones. Bright Mountain Jia was a hard bone to chew. The news the front lines had been defeated were passed back to Bright Mountain Jia, and all of Bright Mountain Jia went on their guard. When the identity of the commander-in-chief of this enormous Mo Cloud Sea battalion group was revealed, all of the Mo Martial Alliance inhaled in shock. Bihan, the 10th-ranked battle general, a battle general the Mo were familiar with. They were unfamiliar with the majority of commanders under Bihan's command, but just the name Bihan was enough for them to feel strong danger. Sim Battalion Bihan. The 2 Mo marshals of Bright Mountain Jia seemed to be facing a great enemy, and did not dare to attack first. A person's name, a tree's shadow. The infamy of Bihan was something that people did not dare dismiss. The 2 Mo marshals thought highly of themselves, but facing Bihan, they still lacked confidence. Fortunately, Bright Mountain Jia's defenses were outstanding, and they had both soldiers and supplies. If they persisted in not going out, the other would not have any other choice other than to attack. The 2 planned. They carefully set up defenses to increase morale, as they asked for help from the rear. Bihan, who was leading multiple battalions, had more than just Sim Battalion. If he did not care about the price and attacked, the 2 did not have the confidence to know how long they would last. Fortunately, Bright Mountain Jia was very important to the alliance, and they believed the higher-ups would not ignore this attack. In the conference room, Sherdong's battalion had caught up, and he arrived just in time for the strategy meeting. The conference room was unusually silent. No one made a sound. Everyone had been used to Lil Miss being at the front to lead the discussion. Now that it was Bihan, people were slightly used to it. Also, Bihan usually did not talk at all during discussions. Like air, he didn't seem to exist at all. There was also another layer of thinking that everyone had. It had to be said that Lil Miss had been the one to teach and train them. Many of them didn't have any fame before this. Usually, Lil Miss had been in command at the center, and their trust of Lil Miss was unconditional. Bihan was a reclusive person, and usually did not converse with them. He never said anything during a meeting. While they knew that Bihan was strong, but was he as strong as Lil Miss? Many people did not accept this. However, under Lil Miss' command, what was most important was following regulations. Bihan had been personally appointed by Zhuamo. While they had opinions, no one dared speak them. They did not speak, and the discussion room was silent. Who among them didn't have a bit of a temper? Some people thought inside, if this was Lil Miss, the atmosphere would be heated. At this time, Bihan spoke, his voice just as icy as usual. Ajago. Ajago, whose thoughts had been wandering, hurriedly stood up and said gravely, "This subordinate is here. Your battalion will go to the area of East Nation Jia, Bright Home Jia, and West Mountain Jia. If you encounter battalions, you can either choose to fight or not." This subordinate's goal is? Ajago was confused. Before the campaign, he had familiarized himself with the Jia map of this area. He knew where the 3 Jia were, but he didn't understand Bihan Darren's intentions at all. That area was far from 100 energy Jia with many Jia between them. Let them feel pressure. Bihan treasured his words like gold. Yes. While he did not understand, Ajaga still took his orders. Tang Fei. Bihan turned around. Here. Tang Fei stood up. Her expression was solemn. She had seen Bihan fight before, and was probably the one that trusted Bihan's abilities the most. The goal of your battalion is East Spring Jia. The commanders present all had surprised expressions. East Springs Jia was far from 100 energy Jia, and they didn't seem to be related at all from the Jia map. However, the people present were not normal people. They all frowned and thought hard to find Bihan's intentions. Bihan did not seem to see the puzzlement on the commanders' faces. He had no intentions of explaining, and continued to give out orders. Sherdong. Sherdong hurriedly stood up. Here. Hide in the area of Pulyuo Jia and Mighty Moon Jia. Do not let anyone detect you, and wait for orders. As the orders were given out, the commanders stared at the Jia map trying to find clues and were frowning in thought. Bihan ignored them. He said, "My fam battalion will move with me. End of meeting, every battalion will move according to their orders." They refocused and stood to acknowledge. Yes. Finished. Bihan walked out of the conference room first. Once Bihan walked out, the conference room immediately became noisy. Who sees something? Make speak up. I can't see it, this setup is very strange. Yes. It isn't reasonable at all. Tang Fei did not make a sound. She suddenly lowered her head to ask Miao Jun, "Teacher, have you seen something?" "I see a bit, but I cannot guess many of the steps." Miao Jun's expression was shocked as he said in a low voice. As expected of a top battle general, Bihan Darren doesn't usually show himself, but when he does, it isn't ordinary. The MO Martial Alliance is going to have a huge defeat this time. Even we who know the goal cannot see through this plan. Ha! The commanders here were not stupid and could find some hints. But even so, they found it bewildering. They could not determine what Bihan Darren was going to do next. This discovery caused everyone to become silent. Bihan Darren, who was usually reclusive, and did not have anything worthy of people to remark upon except his fierce offensive, intimidated them with one move. They finally understood that the difference in skill between them and top battle generals was bigger than they imagined. Mo Cloudsi was moving and Zhuamo was not idle. Someone had come from Xixian. In truth, Zhuamo had not expected Xixian to send an envoy. He was Gu Liangdao's most faithful ally. What was Xixian sending people here for? To cause a discord between himself and Gu Liangdao? Zhuamo did not understand, but he still decided to meet the other. The leader of the envoy was a middle-aged person called Jian Jun. He was of average power, but he was elegant and had presence. Mr. Zhua is really accomplished at a young age. Having conquered so much at such a young age, it makes those like me sweat. Jian Jun praised. Mr. Jian is too complimentary. What have you come for? Zuomo did not want to waste words and said directly. Jian Jun stilled at Zuomo's directness, but he was a person who could adapt. Seeing this, he said directly, "We have come to visit Mr. Zhua this time for two matters." Seeing Zuomo show a listening expression, he said, "The first is that we hope to order some Shin equipment from you." Order Shin equipment? Zuomo stilled for a moment. He hadn't thought that Xixian would order Shin equipment from them. Yes. The MO cloud system Shin equipment is stronger than any other. Jian Jun said with a friendly smile. It will be best if you can design new Shin equipment around our Shin power. We are willing to pay the corresponding expenses. Design Shin equipment? Zuomo was seven more stunned. He looked suspiciously at the other. Tailored Shin equipment. You will need to provide your Shin power cultivation method. This is not a problem. Jian Jun's expression was normal, as though he was talking about a simple matter. Other than the day of completion, everything else can be negotiated. Zuomo felt as though he didn't have enough brainpower to use. Xixian had come to order Shin equipment, and were willing to provide their Shin power cultivation method? This was clearly the secret of each sect that should not be told to anyone else. What was going on with Xixian? Chapter 754. Alliance with Xixian. Jian Jun seemed to be speaking of a common everyday matter, and smiled naturally. He said, "Before we left, Zhong Darren said that Xixian is weak now." Kuan Luan and Tian Huan are greedily watching from the sides. The 9 great Diana sects look numerous, but they are divided and their power is scattered, only appearing strong but will scatter when they face pressure. Only Mo Cloud Sea is a viable ally. While they do not have many soldiers, they have strong commanders. They do not have a great amount of land, but they are wealthy, their potential can be anticipated, and are a possible ally. Zhong Darren is too complimentary, Zuomo politely responded. Jian Jun smiled slightly. My Xixian has been weak for a long time. Our elite have left us. If there is no help from outside forces, then we will not be able to fight off Kuan Luan and Tian Huan. Mo Cloud Sea is in a remote location. With the 9 great Diana sects as barrier, there are no worries in the short term. Yet once Kuan Luan and Tian Huan swallow Xixian, each will possess almost 2 realms of power and be unstoppable. Darren predicted that if it gets to that point, with the 2 sects sending soldiers, the 9 great Diana sects will collapse with little resistance. At that time, Mo Cloud Sea will have no place to retreat. The 9 great Diana sects can surrender, but Mo Cloud Sea cannot. Zuomo changed expression. He had to admit that Zhong De's prediction was accurate. The 9 great Diana sects were a group of rabble, if they could not unify under one banner. If Kuan Luan and Tian Huan had just average abilities, they might try to fight back. If the 2 big sects really ate Xixian, just their presence would be enough for the 9 great Diana sects to surrender without even fighting. The hate between Mo Cloud Sea and Kuan Luan had been spread far and wide a long time ago. Everyone knew of the great hate between Mo Cloud Sea and Kuan Luan. The crux to stopping Kuan Luan and Tian Huan was not the 9 great Diana sects, but Xixian. Zuomo had thought of this before, but at that time, there was no hope to be seen in Xixian. The sudden appearance of Zhong De had given new blood to the rotting Xixian. Jian Jun continued to speak. I heard some things about Mr. Zhua's birth. Darren feels great sympathy, and has executed everyone involved in that incident. Also, Darren has given me the duty of returning this item to Mr. Zhua. This item that belongs to the Zhua family is today returned to Mr. Zhua, to its owner. As he spoke, he took out a strangely shaped item. This item was extremely unique in shape. It was about the height of a person, and was like a tree branch cut off from a tree. The main trunk was curved, and there were 5 forks that crisscrossed. The item was made completely from metal. Even after a few decades, it was still shiny like it was new. This is the part that we obtained in the past. The other 3 are in the hands of Kuan Luan, Tian Huan, and Xiankong Temple. While returning this cannot undo the past, we have already taken care of the elders involved in the matter. However, we do not hope to receive your forgiveness with this. We only wish to sincerely express our apologies, and to show that Xixian is willing to take responsibility for this matter. Jianjun's expression was stern and his tone solemn. Zuo looked at this Shen device part and was in a daze. Xixian had not faked this item. When Jianjun had taken this out, Zuo had felt the presence of a Shen device. In his few memories, this strangely shaped thing had appeared a few times. Thank Zhong de Darren for me. Zuo refocused, his expression normal. The scenes that had flashed through his mind caused his emotions to shift, but he quickly calmed his mind. As the leader of the entire Mo Cloud Sea, every decision could influence the future development of Mo Cloud Sea. There are no problems about the alliance and ordering Shen equipment. But both understanding your Shen power and designing Shen equipment will take time, Zuo said. A hint of joy flashed across Jianjun's eyes. He unhesitatingly took out a jade scroll. This is the Shen power of our sect. I will give this to you now. Zuo speedily read through it. After thinking for a moment, he had a general grasp of their method. The work to design the Shen equipment will take about 2 months. The price will only be known after the first ones are made. Jianjun then asked, is it possible to finish 30,000 Shen equipment before the 8th month of next year? Zuo said after a moment of thought. It is difficult to produce 30,000 in 1 year, but there should be no problems for 20,000. Jianjun said unhesitatingly. Good. At least 20,000. No matter how many you will produce, we will take all of them. No problem. Zuo said crisply. This was a very profitable transaction. If they had 20,000 Shen equipment, Xixian's power would increase greatly. Zuo was happy to see this. Also, such a large order would cause Mo Cloud Sea's forging skills to go up another level. This was killing multiple birds with one stone. Jianjun suddenly spoke. There is one matter we will request of Mr. Zuo. Please speak. Zuo had to admit that while Jianjun was not strong, but his style and his way of speech made people feel pleased. Ah. Jianjun sighed lightly. We want to ask Mr. Zuo to pass on a message. A message? Zuo stilled and then understood. Guliang Dao. Yes, Mr. Zuo, please give this letter to Guliang Dao. This letter was personally written by Zhong de Darren. Jianjun passed over a jade scroll, but his expression was slightly awkward. Zuo seriously received the jade scroll. He said with a nod. I will definitely give this to Brother Gu. Thank you, Mr. Zuo. Jianjun's smile was slightly forced. A talent of the sect had betrayed and left the sect due to being forced by the sect. This was not something to be proud of. Mr. Jian is too polite, Zuo said. The two then discussed the problem of setting up transportation formations. After setting up transportation formations, they would be able to travel freely. While it was expensive to move large volumes, it was the safest method at present. Both of them knew this. Once they opened the transportation formations, the wards of Mo Cloud Sea would flood into Xixian. This would affect Xixian greatly, but the present Xixian had no power to manage this. What was in front of them was an even more dangerous and cruel future. Organizing their combat forces was their most urgent need at this moment. Before leaving, Jianjun said with a serious expression, Mr. Zuo, you need to pay attention to Kunlun and Tianhuan. While Mo Cloud Sea is the best at forging, Kunlun and Tianhuan are not lacking. Recently, Kunlun and Tianhuan having been seeking ancient ruins, and Kunlun found the remnants of an ancient Shen device. They have started to plan forging a new Shen device. This information immediately attracted Zuo's attention. Is there anything more specific? No. Jianjun shook his head. We only know that for this device piece, 3 of Kunlun's elders lost their lives and the sect leader was heavily wounded. Zuo was startled. This price was great even for Kunlun. Shen devices have developed quickly. Maybe in a year or 2, everyone will have distanced themselves again. Jianjun said concernedly. Taking from the past is better than closing the doors and creating from within. You will need to pay more attention. If we have information of ancient ruins, we will notify you. All right. Zuo nodded. Jianjun's words made him have nothing to say. The beginning of a new era was usually when development occurred the fastest. Slacking off for a time meant that some people might be forever pulled down. Unlike the completeness and maturity of the Ling power system, Shen power had just been reborn. While the general picture could be seen, the details were still crude. Kunlun was willing to spend such an astounding price. This meant that what they obtained surpassed this price. Zuo felt strong danger. Gu Liangdao was silent after reading the letter. Big brother, did that old man Zhongda say something ugly? Shuangyu couldn't resist asking. Gu Liangdao shook his head and handed the jade scroll to Shuangyu. Read. Shuangyu took the jade scroll. His expression was spectacular after he finished reading, and then he handed the jade scroll to Xiao. Gu Liangdao laughed self-mocking. He's inviting us back. He will give up his position, and will clean out all opposing factions. Is this fake? Shuangyu hesitated to say. No matter what, the contents of the letter were not something he could believe. It's true. Gu Liangdao's gaze was slightly dazed. The internal conflict and pain appeared in his eyes. Then should we return? Shuangyu asked excitedly. He believed that if Big Brother returned to Xixian to take power, Xixian will definitely come back from the dead. Xiao, what do you think? Gu Liangdao suddenly asked. Xiao was silent for a moment and then said, it is hard to say. Zhongda says he only has 3 years left. It probably is not a lie. It is also not a lie that he will abdicate the power because only we can save Xixian. So up until now he killed so many people but didn't touch any of those close to us. Gu Liangdao continued to be silent. But after? Xiao said calmly. Once Zhongda is dead, Big Brother has the power, and then? The sect leader can tolerate Zhongda, but can he tolerate Big Brother? Shuangyu's expression froze. He became silent. The sect leader is skilled and enduring. The elders have held power and controlled Xixian for so many years, yet the sect leader did not make a sound. Looking back now, the sect leader may have let them. The sect leader might have moved in the shadows for Big Brother to be forced out of the sect. No way. Shuangyu's eyes were wide, his expression disbelieving. Xiao smiled coldly. The sect leader was young when he took the position, and could not stand up to the elders. He was forced by the situation. Think of what the sect leader has done all these years, free and taking pleasure, not asking about the matters of the sect. Look at what the sect leader did this time. While he is not a murderous person, he is a cunning one. Zhongda was gone for more than 50 years, yet he was able to uproot the elders and their support in the span of one night. This cannot be accomplished by just killing people. You mean to say? Shuangyu was not stupid and understood. Without someone familiar with the situation, he definitely could not have done it. The sect leader had probably started to investigate the elders from a long time ago. Supposedly, half of the sect leader's guards were killed. It is terrifying that he managed to endure for so long. Xiao's voice was cold and emotionless. It would be fine if this letter came from the sect leader, but it came from Zhongda. Zhongda has great power, and the sect leader will go along with him. What about after Zhongda is dead? What do we have that will let us fight against the sect leader? So what, we aren't afraid of him, Shuangyu muttered. Xiao smiled. Why should we? Right now, our situation is not bad. Our land is not large, but our foundation is not bad. Why should we go back to endure? Xiao is right. The shadows in Gu Liangdao's eyes were swept away. We only knew freedom after coming out. I am not willing to turn back. How can we believe him? But our relatives are in Zhongda's hands. How can we get them back? When they had fled, the relatives of most of his subordinates had been arrested. Getting these relatives back was a great problem that was related to their foundation. Xiao smiled confidently. This matter is not difficult. Zhongda has not killed them, so he will not make things difficult for us by using them as hostages. However, we need to ask Brother Zhua for help on this. Brother Zhua. Gu Liangdao's eyes lit up, and then his praise left his mouth. Yes. Chapter 755. Shen device part Zuomo was surprised by the attitude that Xixian showed, but he quickly understood what Xixian intended. Just like how Xixian was the crux to restraining Kuan Luan and Tian Huan for Mo Cloud C, Xixian's only ally in the Xiuzhi world was Mo Cloud C. After reading through Xixian's Shen methodology, Zuomo understood why Xixian hadn't kept it a secret. No wonder people said that the true ancestor of the 5-element Shen power was the reverse 5-element Shen methodology that Shuangyu had created. In Zuomo's view, Xixian's 5-element Shen power was middling and lacked any exceptional qualities. If a normal sect had created this Shen methodology, it naturally would be outstanding, but with Xixian's status as one of the 4 great sects, it could be seen how sparse its talent was to have created this mediocre Shen methodology. However, Zuomo did not help them advance the Shen methodology. He did not dare to underestimate a foundation thousands of years old. Even a rotten boat had 3/10 of its weight in nails. If they had the time, who knew if they could recover? A powerful Xixian definitely would not be willing to be Mo Cloud C's ally. After thinking for a moment, he called the 2 masters and gave the jade scroll to them. Disdainful expressions appeared on the 2 masters' faces. They naturally looked down on a Shen methodology of this level. There were not many that knew that Mo Cloud C had more than one Shen methodology. Every person's cultivation base were different, because Zuomo's camp had a lot of Xiuzhi, Yao and Mo. With Zuomo's Mo Cloud Shen methodology as the basis, there were many methodologies that branched off. Zuomo himself encouraged the creation of these, and would even help them perfect these Shen methodologies. He didn't hide a thing. In this kind of an environment, the 2 masters were knowledgeable about Shen power, and looked down on normal Shen methodologies. Xixian has declined as expected. This Shen methodology is just worth so much, Master Sun Bao said without any courtesy. Ji Wei smacked his lips and said, "It would be good if we can get a hold of Kuan Lun's and Tian Huan's Shen methodologies. Those 2 might have some good insights." Hearing the 2 masters' tone as though they were looking down on the world, Zuomo couldn't help but smile. He then said, "Using Xixian's Shen power to design Shen equipment, is 2 months enough?" 2 months. Sun Bao dismissively snorted. "Half a month, only half a month. Half a month." Zuomo had a doubtful expression. Sun Bao met Zuomo's doubtful gaze and jumped as though he had been slighted. "Darren, if you don't believe me, Old Sun is willing to be punished according to military law." Ji Wei's face and neck was flushed as though he had been greatly humiliated. Zuomo jumped in fright at the 2's reactions. These people were so proud. However, his attention quickly was attracted by the promise of half a month. If that's the case, how many sets can we make before the 8th month of next year? Sun Bao thought and said, "It depends on how we make them. If we use all of our power, 50 to 60,000 will not be a problem. However, that is only if we give up on all other missions." Without affecting the other missions? Zuomo continued to ask. 20 to 30,000. Master Sun Bao sighed in relief. He didn't want to waste his time on forging these Shen equipment. There were countless mysteries in the world of Shen power waiting for him to explore. "Is this a large order?" Ji Wei suddenly said. For the 8th month of next year, Xixian will take as much as we make." Zuomo nodded. Sun Bao immediately asked, "What's the price?" Ji Wei's attention was also pulled over. The 2's eyes flashed with light. While Gongsun Cha was the main economic force of Mo Cloud C, they also spent the most. Zuomo never spared what he invested into Golden Crow Camp. All kinds of high-level materials, all kinds of trials, he allowed them to do what they wanted. It was only Zuomo's unlimited investment that caused Golden Crow Camp to become so powerful. This could be seen from the flames they used to forge. In the past, only core members would have 4th-grade Golden Crow fire. Now, this had been spread to become the standard flame for the outer members of Golden Crow Camp. If they were willing to enter the cadet organizations, they would be gifted Golden Crow fire. The Golden Crow fire was harvested from the Golden Crow macro formation. While it was not as expensive as it was in the past, it still was significant. Distributing it so widely meant it cost a great amount, but Zuomo never complained about this kind of investment. This directly caused the forgers from many places to furiously flood Mo Cloud C. Later, in order to stop this outflow of talents, Kuan Luan and Tian Huan had to increase their benefits for production xiozha. However, Mo Cloud C had already gathered a great number of production xiozha. 4th grade Golden Crowfire. So many people would save for their entire lives but not be able to buy it. Golden Crow Camp was literally a monster that ate gold. The two masters were extremely sensitive to price and profit. The price will be dependent on your design. The profit margin will be initially set at 200%. Once Suemo opened his mouth, he was immediately exposed as an evil businessman. Master Sun Bao was familiar with forging and said rapidly, a set of Shin equipment's basic cost is around 57th grade Jingshi. 200% profit margin, that is 157th grade Jingshi. That's about right. The power of the Shin equipment will reach about 80% of our Mo cloud system. Ji Wei's eyes were bright, and his breathing slightly rushed. Big business. If it is 20,000 sets, that is 2 million 7th grade Jingshi. No, we have to make at least 30,000 sets. There are ways to increase production. Sun Bao thought as he spoke. Right now, there are many low-level forgers with Golden Crowfire. We can have them first forge the ingots for the Shin equipment. That way, it will save us a lot of effort. Our Shin fire pool is about to be completed. It will be able to be used to improve our efficiency. We can reduce production time. This way, we should be able to produce 40,000 sets. 4 million 7th grade Jingshi. Even Ji Wei, who had seen great amounts before, couldn't help but exclaim and inhale sharply. That was a terrifying number. If this spread, it would make all of the xiozha world boil. Zuomo's face was flushed, but he did not let the enormous number go to his head. He said with a snicker, we will not take Jingshi, we will take materials. Jingshi is being depreciated now, and the prices of materials is increasing. This way, we will get everything out of Shixian. Sun Bao and Ji Wei furiously nodded. Ever since they entered the era of Shen power, the use and value of Jingshi continued to decrease. It was not something essential for people to cultivate. The biggest value of Jingshi came from the Ling power it contained. Yet in the era of Shen power, the greatest pursuit was of Shen power, not Ling power. Conversely, as a result of the fighting, the prices of materials had risen greatly, especially high-grade materials. The prices grew so fast it seemed they had a new price every day. If Zuomo and the others hadn't secretly moved everything out of Xiankong Temple's Diana Treasure Pavilion, and all of the high-grade materials that Xiankong Temple had accumulated over thousands of years had ended up in his hands, he would not have been able to support Golden Crow Camp's terrifying expenses. Most of the high-level materials in Gongsun City Destroyer, and Bihan's Arsonist, came from that. The reason that Zuomo had not forged Shin devices was not because he didn't have the ability, but he did not have the resources. Each Shin device required a pile of high-grade materials, each that were worth cities. After forging 2 Shin device raiments, almost all of Mo Cloud C's high-grade materials had been used up. Even Kuan Luan and Tian Huan did not dare to casually forge Shin device raiments. Shin device raiments were the ultimate weapon of this era. It represented the peak of forging for this era. Zuomo had thought deeply about forging, City Destroyer, and Arsonist. Ague already had a Shin device raiment, that gray set of armor that Zuomo named the Undying Ghost. Zuomo also had the Anti-Dragon Claw and the 3000 Thread of Worry. While the sum of them together could not equal a Shin device raiment, they could compare to pseudo-Shin weapons. Also, Zuomo thought that City Destroyer and Arsonist were of greater use to Mo Cloud C. However, for million 7th grade Jingshi was enough to forge a true Shin device raiment. The excitement the three felt when facing this number could be imagined. I will leave this matter to your care, Zuomo said. Sun Bao jumped up and said excitedly, Darren, do not worry, this subordinated definitely will not let even one of these 4 million pieces of Jingshi walk away. Ji Wei nodded. I'm confident in your work. However, pay attention to keeping this a secret. Don't let people find out too early, Zuomo ordered. The two hurriedly acknowledged this, and then impatiently bid farewell to leave. It was impossible for others to be completely unalerted to a project of such scale. Mo Cloud Sea was filled with spies from all factions. While extermination was occurring constantly, these spies were like weeds that would never stop growing. As long as this matter was not exposed too early, there was no great worry. Watching the two leave, Zuomo's face unconsciously turned to that Shin device part shaped like a tree branch. His eyes flashed with emotion. As though she detected his emotions, Ague silently appeared behind Zuo. The scars on Agui's faces had disappeared. Her face was like the one that Zuo had once seen in his memories. Her face was still expressionless and the mark on her brow was unusually clear. Her undying Shin power had become even more unfathomable. Fine. Zuo turned to smile at Ague and then rubbed her hair. Agui's empty eyes became gentler. Let's go to see. Zuo pulled Ague to walk towards the corner. The empty corner suddenly pit up and Zuo and Ague disappeared in the light. Zuo and Ague appeared in a secret room. There were many things stored in these secret room. Many of the items showed marks of being burned and damaged. They also looked old. There was a helmet placed at the end of the room. The helmet was dim. Dozens of thin and long bone spikes fanned out in rows behind the helmet. At the top of the helmet, there was a crescent-thin blade coming out of the forehead that arched over top and wrapped around to the back of the helmet. This was another part of the Shin device raiment that his father had forged. It had been placed in Xiankong Temple's Diana Treasure Pavilion, and then landed in Zuomo's hands. The things in this secret room were all things that Xiankong Temple had taken from his home in the past. When Zuo came near, the dim helmet suddenly lit up with a gentle light. Zuo stilled, and his mind moved. He took out that tree-shaped Shin device part. The helmet suddenly shook, the dozens of spikes trembling as it gave off a hotter light. Zuo suddenly felt pain on his hand, and he instinctively let go. The tree branch turned into a streak of light, and flew to the bright helmet like a bird returned to the nest. Chapter 756. The uninhibited Chao Xi and Zuo looked at the strange thing in front of him, and was greatly interested. The forked tree branch part of the devices was now pointed downwards, and the main trunk was connected to the back of the helmet. It looked. Zuo examined it for a while, and found it increasingly familiar. He thought hard before he finally recalled what this was like. If the helmet was a person's head, then the main branch that led down from the back of the head, wasn't it a person's spine? And the forked branches that split off, weren't they like the small blood vessels and channels? The more Zuo looked, the more he felt it was like that. Suddenly, Zuo was extremely curious about his father. This kind of design was definitely unique. Even in this era where Shin devices were constantly appearing, it still was unique. He was even more curious what the other two parts looked like. What would the complete Shin weapon look like? What kind of power would the complete Shin weapon have? Zuo suddenly had a feeling that his father was a great person. This Shin device was too unique. Even though Zuo had forged the angle device raiment, a pseudo-Shin device, he still felt stunned by the incomplete two-part product in front of him. There were no indications of how it was forged on its body. There were no Shin glyphs or seal scripts. The tree-like structure seemed to have grown naturally. The helmet was tightly melded and didn't show any signs of being forged. Those long strange antennae-like things were something that Zuo still didn't know the use of. He tried to pick up the newly merged Shin weapon. It was unexpectedly light as though there was nothing. A ball of light suddenly lit up at the end of the antenna. The light flashed to a certain rhythm that was hard to understand. The level of this Shin weapon far surpassed the level of the present Shin weapons that had appeared. To an innocent man, wealth is a crime. How could the Zuo family which possessed such a Shin device not be targeted by other people? Zuo sighed. He focused on the half-Shin weapon in front of him. After the two parts merged together, they seemed to come alive, and occasionally released light. Zuo tried to channel in Shin power. Boom. He felt the surrounding scenery change. Information flooded into his mind. Off guard, Zuo's body froze, his vision turning black. He only recovered after an unknown length of time. Pew. He tasted sweetness and then spat out a mouthful of blood before his chest felt less congested. He couldn't help but show a shocked expression. In Zuo's sea of consciousness, Weiwood had been motionless all this time suddenly opened his eyes. Pu Yao also felt something and suddenly stood up. Don't try that again. Wei's words stopped Swo. With the warning, Swo put the incomplete Shen weapon down with lingering fear. He didn't dare to try again. With his previous attempt, he had been lightly wounded, and almost 7/10 of his Shen power had been used up. His scalp pricked at this result. He hadn't even detected the loss of his Shen power at all, and it was 7/10. There was too much information inside the Shen device, so much that it surpassed his tolerance and injured him. But no matter how he thought back, he could not remember a word. This thing. However, Swo quickly noticed that Wei had woken up. He entered the sea of consciousness with a grimace. Wei, you finally woke up. When Wei opened his mouth and started nagging. Azwa, I said that you have to be careful. Why don't you listen? You're a leader now, how can you be so rash? You have to know, if your Shen power was just a little bit weaker, you would have been sucked dry. Your life would be finished. Listening to Wei's nattering, Swo felt warm and a smile came onto his face. Pu Yao impatiently interrupted him. Enough. How come I didn't feel that you were an old woman before? You are the great gravestone armor, you have dignity, show your presence, don't be like an old woman. Wei stilled and then instinctively nodded. That seems right. But he quickly reacted. What about an aura like yours that isn't male or female? Pu Yao was furious. Who are you saying isn't male or female? Wei said deviously, not me. I'll kill you. Pu Yao smiled in anger, the black flames on his body shooting into the air. The black flames in the sea of consciousness exploded as well, Pu Yao rampaging in the sky. Wei didn't have any fear at all, his expression was sunny but his mouth poisonous. If you can't kill me, you are a Renyao. Swo almost fell onto his face. He wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. As expected, Wei was the more devious one. Two tigers fighting would affect the bystander. Without a second word, Swo silently slipped away. Not long after he came out of the sea of consciousness, Swo received Gu Liangdao's letter. After reading it, he guessed what the issue was, but it was not for him to express opinions on this matter. Also, the favor Gu Liangdao requested of him was a simple matter for him. Gu Liangdao wasn't willing to return to Xixian, and this was most likely because he saw that Xixian was in difficult straits. The situation was not something that one person could change. He shook his head and his attention turned back to Mo Cloud Sea. The present situation was also a great pressure on Mo Cloud Sea. With Xixian's massive order, Mo Cloud Sea could enter a time of fast development. As long as they overcame the obstacle of materials, the powerful production abilities of Mo Cloud Sea would be able to be expressed. For the present Mo Cloud Sea, if they worked steadily, if they finished accumulating in this time, their power would change. While Mo had a good plan, other people would likely hamper his efforts. Xixian and Mo Cloud Sea have established an alliance. The report of the subordinate caused Lin Qian to raise his head. His expression was normal. Is the information true? This is intelligence from the spy inside Xixian, the subordinate said respectfully. We cannot get close to Zhongde, and does not have direct evidence of this, but Zhongde took out the Zhou family Shen device part from Xixian's stores. We detected traces of its movement. They are willing to pay a great price. The one that spoke was an elegant youth with red lips, white teeth, and ethereal long robes. His voice when he spoke carried an unique slowness. He was called Chao Xian, and one of the members of Lin Qian's inner sword pavilion. In the sword pavilion that Lin Qian had built, every position was coveted. Countless elders used their connections in hopes that they could arrange for their disciples to enter. Everyone knew that the sword pavilion would become the true core of power in Kunlun's future. If they could enter, they would undoubtedly enter the true core of Kunlun. Yet Lin Qian had resisted the suggestions of the masses, and picked an unknown disciple, Chao Xian. Chao Xian was born into poverty. While his parents were Kunlun disciples, they were outer disciples. He appeared very poor in the eyes of the public. Also, Chao Xin's individual cultivation was stunningly weak. He entered the sword pavilion with Zhuji cultivation. This was the first in Kunlun's history. What was also unexpected was that Chao Xin's ranking was high. The first person that Lin Qian picked was Shui Dong, The second was Chao Xian. This unknown outer sect disciple immediately multiplied in value and was watched by countless. Rather than shining like people had expected, Chao Xian gradually faded out of view and didn't seem to have any existence to speak of. Only the true higher levels of Kunlun knew the great power this youth controlled. Yes, the subordinate hurriedly said. This time the envoy was Jianjun. This person is not strong but skilled in diplomacy. He was promoted by Zhongde. It was the people from Abyss Jail that protected him on his journey. We could not discover what they discussed. Chao Xian said casually. Pay attention to the movement of their resources. Zhongde is careful, but he just came out of seclusion, and the power he wields in the sect is limited. These tasks are ones that he has to rely on the people below to do. Yes, the subordinate acknowledged and then left. Lin Qian didn't feel any displeasure at Chao Xian giving orders. He frowned and said, if Shi Xian and Mo Cloud C have allied together, it will affect us greatly. Chao Xian took a sip of wine and savored it for a moment before speaking. The most correct move that Shi Xian has made up until now was to get Zhongde to come out. However, one cannot stand alone. Zhongde is strong, but he is just a battle general. Our entry point should be Shi Xian's sect leader. I looked at the reports on him. He became sect leader at a young age, but Shi Xian has been controlled by the elders. One can imagine just how discontent he felt. A person like this will desire power far more than other people. Look at this move. He almost cleaned out all of the elders. Lin Qian listened carefully. As he listened, he poured wine for Chao Xian. His movements were practiced. This was clearly not the first time he was doing so. Chao Xian sipped happily, his expression uninhibited as he drawled. Right now, Shi Xian's power is concentrated in Zhongde's hands. He can tolerate this because the situation is severe. Only Zhongde can control the situation. He needs this knife. This is the common speculation. However, I feel that it is not so simple. It is not possible that Zhongde would not have thought of this. I investigated this person especially. This person is very interesting. On one hand, he values promises and friendship. On the other, he can do anything, be cruel and kill easily. 50 years ago, his woman was pulled into an incident and died. He lost his passion and asked to guard the Abyss Jail. He grew up in Xixian from a young age and owed the past sect leader. However, the past sect leader of Xixian did not help him with that case. Therefore, Zhongde's emotions about the sect leader are slightly complex. However, no matter what, the matter of his woman is still something he thinks about. This can be seen from him immediately building a tomb after coming out. He cannot be loyal to the present sect leader. But he still decided to come out, still help the Xixian sect leader finish the purging. This caused me to come up with a new theory. What theory? Lin Qian was interested. He knows what the present sect leader is like, yet he still helped the other complete the purge, still came out of isolation, still had himself become a blade for the other, and take full control without any qualms. There are two possibilities. One, he wants to kill the sect leader and become the ruler of Xixian. Or he knows that he will not be a threat to the sect leader even if he does this. Chao Xin's eyes were bright, his tone slightly excited. If he wants to kill the sect leader, the best time would have been when purging the upper ranks, with the loss of half of the sect leader's personal guard. The counterattack from the elders was enough for the sect leader, lacking protection, to die. And it would be something accepted and his reputation would not be stained. But he didn't do that. This is matching to his personality. While bloodthirsty, he has his bottom line. The other possibility is something worthy of discussing. He has such great power, yet he is not a threat to the sect leader. That only occurs in one possibility. He knows he won't live long. A dead person will be of no threat to anyone. Lin Qian changed expression. Chapter 757, Danger. Leaving in the night, they avoided the armies stationed along the way, making a long detour. The Tongzi battalion appeared near Eastern Spring Jia like ghosts. Because Zuomo had to have 100 energy Jia, they had spent more effort gathering information on the surroundings here than in other places. This allowed Tang Fei to easily avoid the enemy's troops stationed here. The Mo Martial Alliance would never think that Bihan would target Eastern Spring Jia. Unlike the other Jia that were heavily guarded near 100 Energy Jia, Eastern Spring Jia was just as guarded as usual. How long until we arrive in Eastern Spring Jia? Tang Fei asked gravely. The long hair of the female blew in the sharp cold air. Her stern face was filled with determination and her tone firm and strong. According to our present speed, we will arrive at the outer defense line of Eastern Spring Jia at approximately tomorrow afternoon. The subordinate calculated before answering. Tang Fei looked around. Seeing that everyone's energy was good, she nodded inside. The rest last night had been important. The recovery of the battalion's energy was in preparation for the battle tomorrow. Every soldier had been outfitted with a high-grade Mo steed. The cloud steeds that Chun Yucheng had bred were better, but their production was limited and not available to be distributed to the Mo soldiers. The wealthy Mo decided to give them high-grade Mo steeds. All of them were 7th-grade fire-stepping hell horses. They were tall, their hides completely black and their eyes dark red. Their hooves were wrapped up bright red flames. The fire-stepping hell horses were outstanding for their endurance, suited for long journeys. They were vicious and not afraid of battle. They were a good fighting Mo steed species. Increase the scouts by 30 teams. Pay special care as to not alert the enemy. Tang Fei ordered. The subordinate hurriedly passed on her orders. Miao Jun looked on with a smile at his student. The past Tang Fei caused people's eyes to light up, but she had not been so methodical and calm like now. In these past years, he had spent almost all of his energy to teach Tang Fei. He was extremely satisfied with Tang Fei. Even in Mo Cloud Sea that had many geniuses, Tang Fei was still exceptional. When he thought of this, he couldn't help but feel emotional. If he wasn't part of Mo Cloud Sea's inner core, he could not imagine the strength Mo Cloud Sea had in their battle generals. Any of them would be a person that could take control of a region, if they were of another faction. What he felt even harder to believe that the great majority of these talented young battle generals had been unknown before joining Mo Cloud Sea. And many were not even battle generals before. Tang Fei's strong voice interrupted his pondering. Eastern Spring Jia is not an important Jia, and stationed there are 4 battalions led by Mo generals. It is not difficult to take it, and then we can threaten the Sun Mountain and Eastern Might defense line. There are many important Jia concentrated in the region. All of them resource Jia for the Mo Martial Alliance. They have stationed many soldiers there. We will encounter attacks from multiple fronts. Miao Jun listened to Tang Fei's analysis. Bihan Darren's goal is naturally not those places. The most likely reason he has us attacking Eastern Spring Jia is to diminish the other's ability to reinforce Bright Mountain Jia. A Zhage's task should be similar to us. From the position, it seems that a Zhagu, us and Bihan Darren form a triangle. Bihan Darren is the corner at the front. Sherdong's use is the hardest to guess. That place is a target that has no value. Tang Fei had a puzzled expression in her eyes. Seeing this, Miao Jun smiled and said, "Let's continue this talk after taking down Eastern Spring Jia." Tang Fei still and said embarrassedly, "Teacher is right." Her expression turned stern, coldness rising on her determined face. She silently raised her right hand. The scouts had encountered enemy battalions. The commanders around her immediately turned serious. Orders were quickly sent down. The team leaders became alert, shouting rising in waves. They urged on the Mo steeds under them, moving into formation. The Mo soldiers behind them quickly adjusted as well. The troops which had been swiftly moving quickly changed. Within 10 breaths, the shape of the troops turned from a marching formation to an offensive battle formation. Tang Fei urged the cloud steed under her forward. Her cloud steed was a silver thunder cloud steed. Compared to the large brawny and vicious fire-stepping hell horses, the thunder cloud steed seemed much thinner. It moved elegantly at a measured pace, its entire body covered in dark blue cloud patterns. Tang Fei appeared at the front of the entire battalion. After 7 years, the Tongzi battalion had expanded to 3,000 people. The crowd of dots in the horizon became clearer as the enemy approached closer at a rapid rate. Tang Fei's face seemed to be made from granite, and was unmoving. However, that pair of calm eyes burned with fighting spirit. She lightly tapped the thundercloud steed under her. The thundercloud steed knew its master's intention. It whinnied, lightning exploding off its body as it suddenly accelerated. Without any hesitation, the entire battalion accelerated in unison. The Shun equipment on each MO soldier suddenly lit up. MO Cloud Shun power moved at the same time, gathering through the levels, from the MO soldiers to the MO captains, from the MO captains to the MO colonels. After being tempered, they gathered to Tang Fei. The Tongzi battalion seemed to be one being, a ball of furious Shun power, like a great axe being swung in the hand of a giant. And Tang Fei, shrouded in lightning at the front of the troops, was the silver edge of the axe's bright blade. The opposing MO general paled, but the two sides were too close to order a change. There was no time for them to turn back. The MO general knew that this was not the time to hesitate. If he did, they would perish. Charging forward would be their only chance of living. He gritted his teeth and then suddenly shouted, "Kill!" The power gathered on his body, yet it could not give him the usual feeling of safety and confidence. The two floods of bodies neared at an astounding speed. The Tongzi battalion was like a sharp and powerful axe that cut into the other's battalion. The enemy's power was as fragile as paper in front of this heavy axe, not able to withstand even one attack. Everywhere it passed, blood and flesh flew. Anyone that was even touched would be torn apart. In a blink, Tang Fei saw a sliver of light. She knew that she was about to penetrate through the other's battalion. Without any hesitation, Tang Fei released her control of the power gathered on her. The savage power suddenly exploded with the Tongzi battalion as the center. She had timed it perfectly. The power that suddenly lost its restraints was like a bomb exploding inside the enemy battalion's ranks. It threw up blood and limbs, and the other's ranks were completely thrown into chaos. The disorganization of the troops meant that power could not be effectively gathered and controlled. If its enemies still maintained their battle formation, then what waited for it was the fate of being slaughtered. In comparison, Tang Fei was clearly more skilled. After finishing such a strong charge, her battalion ranks were not disordered in the slightest. She didn't need to reorganize her battle formation before she started a second charge. This battle was determined already. Lin Qian was stunned by Chao Xin's daring speculation. A long time later he slowly spoke. If this is true, then it is a piece of significant news. Shi Xian will not continue. Chao Xin's expression was relaxed. No matter if Zhongde lives or dies. If he lives, a conflict will occur between the sect leader and his best battle general, Zhongde, who is not of one mind as him. If he's dead, without Zhongde, Shi Xian will lose its greatest shield. How will the sect leader prop up Shi Xian? I don't believe it. Unless Gu Liang Dao's trio is willing to return to Shi Xian. However, I do not think that the Shi Xian sect leader is willing to tolerate them. A person who has lost power for decades has a far greater possessiveness about power than normal people. Gu Liang Dao, he is a strong and proud person. Is he willing to bow his head? These few years are the strongest years of Shi Xian. The light of the sunset will always intoxicate people. Lin Qian was thoughtful. He nodded. Yes, Mo Cloud C is the one more worthy of wariness. Yes. Chao Xian put away his frivolous expression and turned serious. The one truly worthy of guarding against is Mo Cloud C. Mo Cloud C is filled with life and it is progressing. This is not something that Shi Xian, a sinking ship, can compare to. If the two ally, the one that benefits the most is not Shi Xian but Mo Cloud C. Mo Cloud C. Lin Qian murmured to himself, and then smiled helplessly. He said, I had not thought that Mo Cloud C would grow to something that we would have a headache about. Mo Cloud C does have weaknesses. Chao Xin's eyes flashed with light. He said with a cold smile, from the surface, Mo Cloud C is small but strong. It possessed the two great battle generals ranking top 4 and top 10. It has strong battalions, many experts. It is strong in forging and wealthy. Yet it has a great weakness. It lacks a person who can manage its internal affairs. Lin Qian thought. He really could not find anyone in Mo Cloud C that was famous for managing affairs. This weakness will not be evident when their territory is small. But if their possessions expand 10 times, no, only 5 more times, they will be a mess. Xiao Xian was filled with great intelligence. 60-something Jie and 300-something Jie has several levels of difference in the difficulty in management. Lin Qian's eyes lit up. Yes. Xiao Xian had clearly worked hard. This is a hidden weakness if they do not resolve it. Once they start to expand, this weakness will become fatal. We are expanding. If they do not follow, they will fall even further behind us. At that time, they wouldn't even have the chance to fight back. If we increase our expansion speed, they only have one choice: expand. Haha. A snake that gorged itself to death. They know they will die from overeating, but have no other choice. Lin Qian smiled. It seems that we need to give them a bit of pressure. Also, they have another weakness. A cold light flashed through Chao Xin's eyes. They rely too much on transportation formations. The 9 great Diana sects sent people to sneak to the transportation formations to take control. Fortunately, eldest Shixiang Weisheng was nearby and quickly arrived. He killed more than a dozen Diana Xiao before they retreated. The others' infiltration had been planned for a long time. Even the Jinji around the transportation formations were unable to stop them. It could be seen how strong the enemy was. Looking at the corpses on the ground, Zuemo, who hurried here, inhaled in shock. Most of Mo Cloud C's connections to the outside world were through transportation formations. While they were expensive, they were convenient and fast to build. For the wealthy Mo Cloud C, this was not a great problem. In the past, nothing had ever happened to the transportation spots. How come someone had sneaked through this time? After walking around the transportation spot, Zuemo finally understood the reason. There was a complete set of Jinji set up around each transportation formation. In the past, when everyone cultivated Shen power, the Jinji was enough to guarantee the safety of these transportation formations. After entering the era of Shen power, everyone's power had grown tremendously, but the Jinji had not changed much. This imbalance caused the previously safe transportation formations to become extremely dangerous. Zuemo immediately recognized the severity of the problem. Golden Crow Camp had focused almost all of its power into the Shen devices and the Shen equipment. He had not thought that there would be a weakness in the Jinji. This had caused the development of Jinji to fall behind. The only one that could be used was the King's Forbidden Firmament. However, this set of Jinji was so expensive to set up, so difficult, that it was not realistic for the many transportation formations that Mo Cloud C had. Zuemo's first thought was to close the transportation formations. But he quickly rejected this idea. The transportation formations were Mo Cloud C's only connection to the outside world. If they closed the transportation formations, then all of Mo Cloud C's products would be unable to be transported out, and they would be isolated from the world. That would be a fatal blow to Mo Cloud C. Chapter 758, Cutting One's Flesh. An inspiration. Zuemo carefully inspected the corpses on the ground. They aren't bad. Weisheng's words rang an alarm for Zuemo. Those that could be called not bad by Weisheng Shixiang were definitely not weak. It is Heartleaf Diana sect, a guard carefully reported. Darren rarely had a dark expression like this. Heartleaf Diana sect? Zuemo's eyes flashed with a cold light. Yes. These people are not wearing Shen equipment, but they cultivate Heartleaf Shen power. Darren, take a look. Finishing, the subordinate forced open the hand of a corpse. There was the mark of a tree branch with a leaf on the palm. Darren, this is the mark of Heartleaf Shen power. They have reached the level of 1 branch 1 leaf. 1 branch 1 leaf. Zuemo asked. When Heartleaf Shen power reaches a new level, their mark will grow and add another leaf. The person said respectfully. You know a lot. Zuemo asked in surprise. What's your name? This subordinate is Jean DeWei. The guard was slightly embarrassed. This one's duty is to inspect the merchant caravans that travel through here, and I have heard some things in the process. Oh, then speak. What other information is there on Heartleaf Diana sect? Zuemo stood and asked interestedly. Jean DeWei had a hesitant expression. Zuemo smiled and said, It's just chatter, and I'm just listening. Jean DeWei finally spoke. This subordinate coincidentally heard the manager of a merchant caravan mention that Heartleaf Diana sect secretly consorts with Tian Huan. This subordinate felt they were slightly suspicious and paid attention to them secretly. I heard this from their members. Why did you find them suspicious? Zuemo seemed to be more interested in Jin Dewei. This subordinate found that they were going around and asking questions, especially about Shen equipment and Shen power. They also asked about the general location of Golden Crow Island. The range of items they brought was wide. They bought a few of everything but not many of any particular item. They did not seem like business people, Jin Dewei explained. The admiration in Zuomo's eyes grew. This person did not have an attention-catching appearance, but he was perceptive and he was a careful person. This was a talent. He then asked, "What do you think of this matter?" Jin Dewei knew that Darren was testing him and immediately focused. After a moment of thought, he said gravely, "They are very familiar with the Jinji and probably have come before to study them. There were not many people in this attack, just 20. They did not have any reinforcements. It seems more like a probing mission." After he said this, Jin Dewei's expression turned ashen. He was frightened by his own conclusion. Zuomo's expression turned dark. There are about 98 transportation formations to the outside world, in 20 or so jie. These outer border jie have been labeled. There was a jie map in front of Gongsun Cha. Almost all about the outermost jie were labeled in red. Because Mo Cloud C's connection to the outside was almost completely reliant on the transportation formations. 98 transportation formations, 22 of the outermost jie. On average, each jie had more than 4 transportation formations connected to the outside. Of these 98 transportation formations that go to different jie, 42 of them are to Xiuzhi jie that are not connected to Tianhuan and Kunlun. These 42 jie are mostly from the 9 great Diana sects and some smaller powers. These factions are easy to infiltrate, and the transportation formations have become a fatal weakness for us right now. Gongsun Cha raised his head to look around. The most secure method right now is to relocate the transportation formations. The best option is to gather the transportation formations and designate specific business jie, where we will station troops to guarantee their safety. However, there are also problems with this plan. The expenses in setting up new transportation formations will be huge, and this way, the cost of many of products will increase as well as reduce our offensive abilities. Zuomo had a grimace. Gongsun Cha's method was possible, but just as he had said, the investment would be enormous. Transportation formations that could move large volumes for long distances were expensive. Even with Zuomo's wealth, he had only accumulated these 98 transportation formations after 7 years of development. If he had to rebuild so many transportation formations, the amount of money he had to spend was a great sum. This was a relatively safe plan, but it was too expensive. The price is too great. Zuomo shook his head. We do not have the capital. Everyone nodded. This plan cost too much. In their view, even if they took over all these jie, they didn't need to spend so many jingshi. Gongsun Cha also knew that this plan was not realistic and continued. We do not need to guess what will happen next. Kunlun and Tian Huan will use our weakness by infiltrating the other powers and harass our transportation formations, even destroying them to destroy our connections to the outside world. Inhales sounded in the conference room. Those with the slightest bit of knowledge understood how great a blow it would be to Mo Cloud C if the situation came to that step. The problem is that even though we know what they will do next, we do not have many solutions. Lil Miss' expression was black. He had originally thought that they built Mo Cloud C to be impenetrable, and hadn't expected that they had left such a fatal weakness. At this time, a paper crane suddenly appeared in Zuomo's hand. After Zuomo unfolded it and read through, he said coolly, 3 transportation formations were attacked at once, and 1 was destroyed. The conference room was deathly silent. Everyone had black expressions. Zuomo knew that Mo Cloud C was in a dangerous situation. At this time he had to make a decision. Other than the crucial transportation formations, close all others, Zuomo said deeply. Angry flames burned in his eyes. His heart dripped blood. The closure of each transportation formation meant the loss of large amounts of Jingshi. Mo Cloud C's economy was about to receive a great blow. For little Mo Gu, whose wealth was his life, this was like cutting his flesh. Breaking someone's path to riches was akin to killing one's parents. Zhuomo's face twisted in pain. He was completely infuriated by the enemy's actions. If we have to suffer losses, then everyone will suffer with us. How can we be the only to lose? Zhuo gritted out. Our transportation formation Jinji have problems. Their transportation formation Jinji will also have similar problems. They can infiltrate and destroy. We can do the same. When had Mo Cloud C ever been defeated like this? Hearing Zhuomo's words, flames of anger rose in the eyes of the people who had been feeling frustrated. Zhuo was unusually angry. His eyes flashed with burning light like a wolf in the darkness. They will regret starting this. Yes. Lil Miss Black's expression returned to normal, and a smile like that of the neighbor's boy came back. This kind of small-scale infiltration is actually more advantageous for us. We have a smaller territory, and is easier to defend. They are larger and there are openings everywhere. It will be difficult to prevent infiltration. Also, we do not need to limit ourselves to transportation formations. Attack any storage depots, any resource jia. If we get to their rear, we can cause pandemonium. Lil Miss words immediately opened a door. All kinds of inspiration rose. Yes, we can assassinate important people. It is more profitable to assassinate those people who are not in high positions, but are very important. For example, the masters in charge of managing production. Their guards will not be strong, the danger is low, and the benefit is high. Disrupt the peace. Ambush transportation boats. There's a place that you all forget, the place that teaches battle generals. If we get that, that place is rich. Maybe we can end a future genius battle general. That would be profitable. We need to plan for escape. We need to divide and conquer. The conference room that had just been deathly silent was now in heated discussion. As he listened, even Zhuo, the start of all this, felt a cold wave up his back. How could these people be so devious? Bihan looked at the paper crane that came from the rear, and then crushed it before throwing it to the side. Have the Jinji been built? The construction has finished, Ma Fan responded. He was filled with puzzlement. Darren had acted the opposite of his usual strategy, and built large amounts of Jinji here, as though he was building a great defense line. Report on the progress of the battalions. Bihan's voice was icy. Ma Fan shook and then hurried to report. The Tongzi Battalion have already taken Eastern Spring Jia, finished reorganizing, and are waiting for next orders. A Zhaga Battalion need 3 more days to reach their destination. However, they have already been detected by the scouts from the Mo Martial Alliance. The Grey Camp have arrived at the ambush spot without attracting any attention. Is there any movement from the reinforcements at Bright Mountain Jia? There are 2 Mo Martial battalions, one of them is 7 days away, the other further away, and will most likely arrive in 20 days, Ma Fan reported. Ma Fan had fought alongside Lil Miss since a long time ago, and always admired Lil Miss' powerful calculation. This time, when he followed Bihan, he found to his shock that Bihan was also precise and accurate in this field. Tongzi Battalion will keep resting, a Zhaga Battalion will follow the original plan. Bihan's orders were clean and brisk. Yes. Ma Fan hurriedly answered. You are stationed here. Your mission is to stop the enemy battalion from making any sudden attacks, Bihan said. Yes. Ma Fan crisply acknowledged. Then he carefully asked, Darren, you? I will attack the reinforcements. Bihan treasured words like gold. Ma Fan's face turned white. Bright Mountain Jia has 2 Mo Martial battalions. Just guard the defense line. Bihan was expressionless. Ma Fan finally understood why Darren had built this defense line that seemed completely unnecessary. However, even with the defensive line, when Ma Fan thought of the 2 Mo Martial battalions they were facing, he still felt a great pressure. Even though Ma Fan's battalion was one of the best in defense from Mo Cloud C, he had never fought against a Mo Martial battalion before. Any battalion led by a Mo Martial was astoundingly powerful. However, Bihan clearly did not intend to explain more to him. He led Sim battalion to disappear in the darkness. Chapter 759. Wolfhead Thousand Monster Camp, in Fei Lei. Fei Lei was surprised by Liang Wei's youth, but he quickly disguised the surprise in his eyes. I am Liang Wei. Liang Wei could see the other's surprise, but he did not care. No matter who it was, they mostly reacted the same way when they saw his youthful face. Fei Lei's weathered face was filled with an experienced and steady presence. This caused Liang Wei to be filled with anticipation towards his battalion. Fei Lei did not like to waste his words. He said directly, "Please come with me." The group entered a concealed mountain valley. Through the narrow mouth of the valley, the space suddenly broadened out. A wave of noise came, the shouts of youths, and Liang Wei's heart beat uncontrollably. Entering his view were thousands of youths furiously cultivating. The white mist from the evaporation of sweat, dirt flying into the air, angry shouts and curses, constant explosions, the activity assaulted Liang Wei's senses. Liang Wei entered a daze, and Fei Lei's voice sounded distant to his ear. They are all individually outstanding. At the beginning, they cultivated MO skills and then changed to Shen power. Each of them has a unique bloodline, and they do not have any barriers in the area of cultivation. They have progressed quickly. Up until now, they are still in the stage of rapid advancement. The length of this stage will be based on their age and talent, from about 3 to 10 years. Fei Lei was completely familiar with these youths that he had traveled over mountains and oceans to find and teach. They are outstanding in power compared to those of their age cohort. They can even match the disciples of those large sects and the prestigious families. We have excavated the power they possess in their blood. This is also the help that I can give them. However, regretfully, they are very immature as a battalion, and can only create a basic formation. Liang Wei refocused and was surprised. From his observation, these youths were, as Fei Lei said, outstanding individually and a match for the elite battalions that he had seen before. So many good talents, how could their higher-ups miss them? He didn't know the power of his higher-ups, but he knew that the mysterious faction would not lack for battle generals. At least Pu Pu himself was very powerful, and he would not be ignorant of the value of these strong outstanding youths. It did not require a strong battle general to carry out normal battalion training. However, his idleness in these years had sharpened his self-control. He asked without a change in expression, "Do they lack a battle general to guide them?" A grimace flashed across Fei Lei's weathered features. He shook his head. "That's not so." As expected, there was a problem. Liang Wei showed an intent expression. Fei Lei said coolly, "Their bloodlines were activated, which caused their individual power to skyrocket. Their Shen power cultivation benefited even more. However, the activated bloodlines caused their hidden personalities to take over, and they are very strange now." Strange? Liang Wei had a puzzled expression. Fei Lei glanced at Liang Wei, a hint of sympathy flashing through the depths of his eyes. "Yes, very strange." He pointed randomly to a youth sitting in meditation in the corner. "He is Ingrong. He will meditate for 14 hours each day without exception. Anyone that goes within 10 zhang of him would receive his unconscious and indiscriminate attack." Unconscious and indiscriminate? Liang Wei gaped, his expression shocked. "Yes." Fei Lei seemed to not see Liang Wei's expression and said, "That's his instinct. While he will sincerely apologize to you after the matter, you may not be able to hear it then." "Why?" Liang Wei stilled. "Because if you are not seriously injured and unconscious, you are likely dead," Fei Lei said expressionlessly. "Look." As he spoke, he picked up a stone and threw at Ingrong. The rock drew out a crescent in the air and flew within 10 zhang of Ingrong. Ingrong, who was in a meditative trance, shook, and then opened his eyes. Shockingly, his eyes were completely white with no pupils. He jumped up and gave a strange snarl. Midair, his body suddenly gave off countless blade-like red energies. Hundreds of red energies headed like a storm towards the rock flying at him. Poof! The fist-sized rock was immediately turned into powder. Ingrong's body bounced and flew back to his original spot back in meditation. The powder drifted down. Liang Wei's mouth was open, his expression dazed. Ing Rong's problem is not that bad because other than the 14 hours in meditation, there is 10 hours where he is in a normal state. Fei Lei pointed at a half-naked large man. He is Guanglong. He has the rare dragon bloodline that causes him to enter a berserker state. Once his battle lust is stirred, he will tear apart everything around him. It is very dangerous to spar with him. Guanglong's body was like a metal tower, his muscles bulging and giving off a great pressure. His blood-red eyes moved around as though he was hunting for prey to fill his stomach. After a moment, Liang Wei said in a rusty voice, Are all of them like this? Fei Lei nodded. Give or take. They are born with the power of the bloodline, and the dangers come as well. However, there is one thing you can be certain of. They listen to orders. Of course, that's when they are normal. The battle generals around Liang Wei that had accompanied him had ashen expressions. In their eyes, these youths were dangerous monsters that would consume them at any time. We wanted to be battle generals, not beast trainers. They cried tears inside. They greatly regretted agreeing to taking this job. Many people had the impulse to chop off their hands. Why hadn't they resisted the temptation of the rewards? They should have thought of this. Anyone that pays a wage has a black heart. Liang Wei's expression gradually recovered from being pale. Then a vicious look flashed through his eyes. The wolf battle general, who had once gone alone into the enemy, released that blood-stained killing intent and determined presence once he made his decision. A look flashed through Fei Lei's eyes. He was shocked. It seemed this person that the higher-ups sent this time was someone good. The other battle generals were stimulated by that sharp and vicious killing intent. They finally remembered that Liang Wei was not the same as them. He was a battle general who had truly experienced the cruelest of fighting. The youths that were training were all sensitive and immediately noticed the astounding killing intent. They stopped and looked over. Who was this person? He clearly looked so weak, but he possessed such a murderous presence. Liang Wei smiled and showed his wolf-like teeth that seemed to have blood on them. This battalion will be called the Wolf Head Thousand Monster Camp. What's Bihan's goal? Quan Pei tried to make his voice sound normal, but people familiar with him could still hear the anxiety contained within. His second-in-command had been with him for many years and could hear this in his voice. He couldn't help but be shocked. This was the first time he had seen Darren so unconfident. Was Bihan so strong? He thought and then asked, What is Darren worried about? Quan Pei was tall, and his hair was white in places. He was not young, but his presence was elegant and gave people an endearing feeling. He was not young when he became a marshal, and didn't have the desire to compete with others. Due to this, he did not hesitate when he was invited to join the Mo Martial Alliance. He was not outstanding among the Mo marshals of the alliance, but he was a steady person with a good and gentle nature. Due to his popularity and his familiarity with the military, he was assigned to an important position. Quan Pei knew his abilities. He knew that he wasn't some great general, and so he did not compete. Even in these turbulent times, he hoped that he could peacefully live out his remaining days and benefit his descendants. He had never thought that there would be a day that he would be forced to face a top battle general like Bihan. In these past years, the Mo territories had completely changed. Many of the old great names continued to disappear, and many unheard of names shone and ascended in this new era. Quan Pei knew he was old in age and could not keep up with this changing era. Just as he knew that nothing good would come of this mission. Bihan was a person that was ranked as a top 10 battle general in the Xiuzhou world. This showed his power. This was a true top battle general. Battle generals of this level were not ones that he could win against. In the Mo Martial Alliance, probably only the young battle generals of the new era, like Shi Shangyu and Hai Jinyan, who would match him. Quan Pei grimaced inside. 7 years, a change in era. Marshal D and the others were still the leaders, but they all knew that with each passing day, they got closer to the passing of the torch, the death of an era. Shin power was the root cause pushing all this. It could be seen from the inner structure of the alliance. The higher-ups started to deliberately set up a path for the new generation that cultivated Shin power. More and more young people started to take up important positions. The Mo Martial Alliance was not the only one. Most of the Mo powers were doing the same, The only exception was the Emotion Temple. Shang Yusheng Battalion and Hai Jinyun Battalion were racing to reinforce this area. The alliance also knew that Quan Pei alone could not stop Bihan. Nothing, I am worried about nothing. Have everyone stay alert and be on their guard. Quan Pei exhaled deeply, his voice finally returning to normal. He was an experienced battle general. He knew how great the damage to the battalion's morale was if the main commander did not appear calm. He only needed to delay Bihan and fight for the time needed for the reinforcements to arrive. When he thought of this, he felt slightly more confident. Shang Yusheng and Hai Jinyun were the genius battle generals that had appeared in the Mo Martial Alliance in these past years. They were young but possessed unparalleled talent. They had proven their strength in cruel battles. If it wasn't for them, the expansion of the Emotion Temple would be even more difficult to restrain. The two of them were top battle generals as well. If he could delay Bihan, two top battle generals were about to arrive. Bihan definitely would not have it easy. Maybe they could kill Bihan. Quan Pei was filled with confidence in the two genius youths of the alliance. Suddenly, Quan Pei, who felt slightly more reassured, looked into the distance, and his pupils contracted. An intimidating battalion had silently appeared on his right flank. Bihan. Chapter 760. Zhongru and Yiqing Yizheng's expression was nervous and concerned. He didn't dare to look away from Zhongru's face. Zhongru's appearance had changed greatly. While Zhongru had been of average appearance before, he had a strong body like most Diana Xiao. Yet now Zhongru's body was thin, his cheeks sunken. Only his eyes were bright as though he could see through everything. There was always a small warm and friendly smile on his face. The red lotus on his forehead was like holy fire. Zhongru's withered fingers moved away from Yizheng Shixiang's body. Master Zhong, how is my Shixiang? Are there any solutions? Yizheng's heart was in his throat. Yizheng Shixiang also opened his eyes, which flashed with shock. Actually, he had been greatly shocked when he saw Zhongru. The other's thin body had clearly been caused by the constant corrosion of wish power, but that pair of shining eyes seemed to pierce straight into his heart. It was the first time that he had the feeling that someone was unfathomable in power. And when Zhongru's two fingers touched his wrist, the gentle and pure Shin power caused him to feel a rare comfort, and made him relax. There are no big problems. Zhongru smiled, his voice filled with a comforting power. Yizheng's heart immediately calmed. Joy came onto Yizheng's face. I just knew that Master Zhong could heal Shixiang. Zhongru smiled slightly. A jade scroll appeared on his hand that he handed to Yizheng Shixiang. This is a record of some of the things I learned during my seclusion, and a method to cultivate Shen power. As long as you cultivate according to this, in a short time, you will heal. Your skill in Samadhi is rare, and will be beneficial to your cultivation. Zhongru then turned and said to Yizheng, cultivate together with your Shixiang. If you have any questions, ask your Shixiang. Many thanks, Master Zhong. The two gratefully thanked him. Zhongru waved his hands. There's no need to be so courteous, but you will not be able to tell others of this cultivation method. The two gravely acknowledged with solemn expressions. A moment later, Zhongru suddenly raised his head and with a deep gaze said, in a few months, your wounds will start to recover. There is something that I want to ask of you. Yizheng hurriedly said, Master Zhong, please speak of any matter. Yizheng Shixiang also said, Master Zhong, please tell us. In our Mo Cloud Sea, the Diana Xiao branch is weak. Other than myself, there are no others with significant achievements, Zhongru said with a smile. My path as a Diana Xiao was rocky, and only received good fortune after meeting Darren. I only managed to develop this after seclusion. If I hide this method, it will be a great pity. Darren also wishes to increase the number of Diana Xiao in Mo Cloud Sea. However, I have no mind for this matter, and so will ask the two of you to carry it out. Yizheng scratched his head. There are too few Diana Xiao in Mo Cloud Sea, and the ones here are not strong. Everyone isn't willing to be a Diana Xiao. Yizheng was right. In Mo Cloud Sea, Diana Xiao was a rare occupation. This was related to the fact that Mo Cloud Sea lacked a top-ranked Diana Xiao. In the past, the strongest had been Zhongru. Even though he was powerful, he was still weak when compared to others in Mo Cloud C. Most in Mo Cloud C cultivated the sword. Wei Sheng's terrifyingly unparalleled power was revered by countless followers. The famed Vermilion Bird Camp was also mostly comprised of swordshio. Most importantly, Mo Cloud C had created a unique sword cultivation method, such as the sword essence comprehending formation. Then it was the sealshio. A sealshio with a good foundation could find a relatively good job in Mo Cloud C. Also, Golden Crow Camp possessed a complete set of seal cultivation jade scrolls that could teach sealshio to cultivate. There were not many roaming shio and Diana shio in Mo Cloud C. Yet what people did not know was that Xiankong Temple's Sutra Pavilion had landed in Zhuomo's hands. That was the biggest factor in Zhongru being able to come out of seclusion. It was these profound Diana shio records and Zhuomo's Shin Power Jade Scrolls that had formed the foundation for Zhongru to comprehend another kind of Shin power. After stealing Xiankong Temple's succession, Zhuomo felt it really was a waste to leave it lying unused. Then there was the matter of Heartleaf Diana Sect's attack. While Mo Cloud C had pressed the Heartleaf Diana sect, the other had presented documents and said that these people had been exiled from Heartleaf Diana sect half a year ago. Angered, Zhuomo started to think of other solutions. The two biggest powers that held back Kunlun and Tianhuan were Shixian and the Nine Great Diana sect. While the Nine Great Diana sect also possessed a top battle general in Yang Yuan Hao, they had many inner conflicts to deal with. Zhuomo had originally thought of selling Shin equipment to increase the power of the Nine Great Diana sects to fight against Kunlun and Tianhuan. The matter of Heartleaf Diana sect caused Zhuomo to smell danger. Kunlun's and Tianhuan's infiltration of the Nine Great Diana sect had progressed far more than he had predicted. If a conflict did erupt, there probably would not be many sects that would really fight back. Since Kunlun and Tianhuan could infiltrate the Nine Great Diana sects, why couldn't they do the same? Zhongru asked. What do you think of the Nine Great Diana sects? Yizheng was slightly puzzled. He didn't understand what Master Zhong was talking about, but Yizheng Shixiang did. After a moment of thought he said, too many people, too many desires, a group of rabble. Would you be willing to go to the Nine Great Diana sects? Zhongru asked. Yizheng Shixiang suddenly understood, his eyes brightening. Does Mo Cloud C plan to infiltrate the Nine Great Diana sects? Yes. Zhongru did not refute it. It was better to speak of this matter clearly. He continued, the present Nine Great Diana sects cannot stop Kunlun and Tianhuan. I do not know about the Great Buddha Temple, but sects like the Heartleaf Diana sect have been completely infiltrated. Yizheng Shixiang was silent. If Kunlun and Tianhuan take down the Nine Great Diana sects, Mo Cloud C will not have a barrier any longer. This is why we came up with this idea, Zhongru said. Mo Cloud C does not want to swallow the Nine Great Diana sects. Yizheng Shixiang suddenly asked. It is not that we do not want to, but we cannot, Zhongru said honestly. We need a barrier more than increasing our territory. You want to turn the Nine Great Diana sects into a bog to delay Kunlun and Tianhuan. Yizheng Shixiang had a sharp gaze. You overestimate the Nine Great Diana sects, Zhongru said coolly. Yizheng Shixiang was silent. Zhongru was right. The Nine Great Diana sects did not have this power, unless someone could unite the Nine Great Diana sects. However, this was impossible. Even Xiankong Temple had not been able to do it. No matter if it is Kunlun or Tianhuan, if they win, the Diana shio will become subordinates. If Mo Cloud C luckily wins, you will not have to worry about this. Please do not worry. No matter if you are willing to complete this task or not, I will not take away this jade scroll. Zhongru looked at Yizheng Shixiang. A moment later, Yizheng Shixiang said, what do I need to do? First, you need to recover, cultivate Shin power and increase your strength. Zhongru's eyes flashed with intelligence. Only when you are strong will you have the right to speak. Then we will give you more support, including money and resources to help you obtain a higher status in the sect. You know the situation of Great Buddha Temple better than I do. Based on my knowledge, the Great Buddha Temple is not ranked high among the Nine Great Diana sects. For you this is a chance. If you can increase the influence of Great Buddha Temple, you will receive more support from inside the temple. Yizheng twisted his mouth, his face unwilling. He was very displeased about returning to Great Buddha Temple. He had felt the cold-heartedness of the world there, and what had been left were not good memories. His Shixiang listened carefully. Our personnel support will be very limited. Mo Cloud Sea has too few Diana Xiao. Zhongru was helpless, but he quickly gave other suggestions. However, we will help you investigate the other sects for disciples that are strong but overlooked. It will be up to you to recruit them. Yizheng Shixiang nodded. I understand. Yizheng's personality is not suited to this. I can go alone. Yizheng was panicked upon hearing this and jumped up. No. Shixiang. Shixiang looked sternly at Yizheng. Yizheng respected his Shixiang greatly and immediately quieted down. You have a straightforward personality and cannot disguise your emotions. You are not suited to doing this, Shixiang said in a gentle voice. You are also at a good time for cultivating. Do not waste that. Do not waste the good fortune of being with Master Zong. But, Yizheng started. Also, while there are many things wrong with the temple, I grew up in the temple since childhood. How can I watch as it declines? Great Buddha Temple's situation is already terrible. Shixiang had a nostalgic expression as he said emotionally. Yizheng could not find anything to say. Both for the common good and for me personally, Yiqing needs to thank Zhongru and Mo Darren. Yiqing bowed to Zhongru. If there is a day that the 9 great Diana sects are defeated, Yiqing requests to enter Mo Cloud Sea for protection. Zhongru looked deeply at Yiqing and thought inside, these large sects were full of geniuses. In his view, Yizheng was a good talent, and he hadn't expected the other Shixiang to be even better. The other had good vision, and if it wasn't for being hampered by his injury for a long time, he would not have declined to such a state. After being reborn now, this person would soar in the sky. I can promise you this. Mo Cloud Sea will accept even the Yao. How can we not accept the Diana Xiao? Zhongru said gravely. Yiqing is willing to do this. Yiqing bowed the bow of a subordinate. Zhongru's expression was slightly happy. Yiqing's bow expressed that he accepted his status with Mo Cloud Sea. He reached out and helped Yiqing's up. This matter is greatly dangerous, be careful. If it cannot be accomplished, prioritize your safety. You are more important than anything else. Yiqing's heart felt warmed. Yiqing understands. Zhongru said in a deep voice. I have not named this Shen power. Starting from today, you will be its creator. Seeing Yiqing about to speak, Zhongru waved his hand to stop the other and said, Reputation is meaningless to me. However, it can help accumulate fame. Reputation is a kind of power. If you can use it appropriately, it can save you great effort in your mission. Yiqing was full of admiration. He had never heard of Zhongru before, yet the personality and strength that Master Zong displayed were all that of a great Diana Xiao. But I need to speak to you of the origins of this Shen power, Zhongru said gravely. This Shen power has been greatly influenced by Darren's Mo Cloud Shen power, but its origin is Xiankong Temple's secret, empty meditation. Yiqing and Yizheng seemed to be struck by lightning, motionless like statues, when they heard this. Chapter 761. The changes of the little ones. There were all kinds of strange scents floating off Chun Yucheng's Cloud Island. Mo was reminded about this each time he came. Especially the smell of freshling grasses mixed with all kinds of waste. It was torture. Chun Yucheng's expression was intoxicated. Such a fresh and healthy smell. Mo smiled helplessly. Chun Shidi was more and more enchanted with animal husbandry, and his temper had become strange. The other was all right with him, but was not friendly to others, especially disliking people coming onto his Cloud Island. There were many kinds of ling and emo grasses planted on the island to feed the cloud seeds. Mo had not seen many of these ling grasses before. They flashed with enchanting lights, which meant that their grade was not low. In the present Mo Cloud Sea, Mo's half-assed ling plant farmer skill was laughable. The ling plant farmers of Mo Cloud Sea were unlike the ling plant farmers anywhere else. They were skilled in using seal formations, and their effectiveness was higher. This was a unique system that Mo Cloud C's strong forging abilities provided the support for. Cloud C Jia did not have many ling fields, and the ling plant farmers were mostly gathered in the Jia with large tracts of ling fields. The ling grasses on Chunshurdis Island were relatively high grade, and the skill of the ling plant farmers were relatively high as well. How are they? Zhua Mo asked in concern. You should have sent them a long time ago. Chun Yucheng's expression was pained as he chatted. If you sent them in a bit later, they would have been wasted. Oh, it wouldn't have been useful if you sent them over earlier. I hadn't found out how to raise cloud steeds then. And then you picked a good opportunity. Zhua Mo felt tormented by Chun Shurdis' excessive chatter. He tried to endure. People like Chun Shidi had unusual enthusiasm and obsession with their own field, and didn't care about anything else. They did not understand how to interact with people, and rarely converse with other people. Most of them had strange personalities. On the other hand, they had outstanding talent and they worked furiously, unaffected by anything else. They usually achieved more in their own field than other people. Zhua Mo could understand them. Chattering endlessly on the way, they finally came to the beast pool from last time. Chun Yucheng became alert and didn't waste words. 10th grade and Sunshine are good, especially 10th grade. His killing energy is thick and he is a rare vicious being. I used the hunt blood pool to nurture his body. This will increasing his killing energy. He uses the sword and I asked eldest Shixiang to find the most vicious sword scripture for him. Most vicious scripture. Zhua Mo felt a cold sweat. If it was the most vicious sword scripture that Chun Shidi could find, he would just smile and dismiss it. But if it was eldest Shixiang, then it definitely was the most vicious sword scripture. Chun Yucheng had a smug expression. I don't really understand sword scriptures, but since eldest Shixiang said it was the most vicious, then it definitely is. 100 sacrifice souls killing sword. How about it? Just this name seems very powerful. Zhua Mo's body couldn't help but shake. He knew this sword scripture. This had been from Pu's collection. Pu had said back then that the 100 sacrifice souls killing sword was not the strongest sword scripture, but could be said to be one of the most vicious. At this time, Zhua Mo had not been affected by Pu Yao's emotional opinion. He didn't have much interest in cultivating sword scriptures. Zhua Mo thought of another problem and couldn't help but ask, can 10th grade cultivate? 10th grade was not like eldest Shixiang. He originated from a ling beast and was not like a Xiuzha. He had never heard of a ling beast cultivating a sword scripture. I had worried about this before, but I found later on that 10th grade is very intelligent and matched well with this sword scripture. There isn't a problem at all. Chun Yucheng's expression of pride grew as he seemed to ask for praise. Shixiang, when the time comes you will have a super sidekick. 10th grade's name was really chosen with great foresight. Shixiang, did you predict a long time ago that he could reach 10th grade? Zhua Mo's expression was righteous. Of course. Otherwise, how can I be your Shixiang? That's true. Chun Yucheng nodded seriously. As expected, those that are Shixiang are all strong. Shixiang, you are strong. Gongsun Shixiang is also strong, but eldest Shixiang is the strongest. Why? Zhua Mo thought. Had Chun Shidi grown powerful enough that he could see people's power? Because he's Gongsun Shixiang Shixiang Shixiang. Chun Yucheng's expression was matter of fact. Of course he is the strongest. Zhua Mo was speechless. He quickly changed the topic. Sunshine. Chun Yucheng fell for it as expected. Sunshine's attributes are the opposite of 10th grade. His specialties are healing, protection, and assistance. If 10th grade is yin, then Sunshine is yang. Therefore the beast pool that I picked is the water flesh wood bone pool. For Sunshine I did not choose spells, but Yao arts. Looking at the excitement on Chun Yucheng's face, Zhua Mo perceptively asked, oh, what great Yao art is it? Haha. Shixiang, you understand me the best. Chun Yucheng laughed proudly. Increasing his volume, he said joyfully, it is the universal life that has been said to be the essential art for super nannies. Oh, the Yao like to call the people who cultivate this Yao art nannies. I feel it is very accurate. Other than this, he also cultivates ward-breaking art. Shixiang, don't worry. Under my great care, Sunshine can definitely move into the ranks of the top nannies. Such an adorable nanny. Looking at the snowy white and handsome Sunshine, Zuemo seemed to see him wearing an apron and holding a bottle in his hand. He couldn't help but shudder. He immediately felt sympathy for Sunshine, but when his words reached his mouth it became, "Sure, this results are masterworks." Chun Yucheng became more excited upon receiving Zuemo's praise. He pulled Zuemo over and said excitedly, "As expected, Xixiang understands me best. Those people do not understand the greatness and holiness of husbandry. This is a kind of creation, a novel creation. I am fated to be the man that will create the strongest ling beasts." Zuemo wiped the cold sweat away from his face as he nodded. "Shitty is ambitious. I admire this." Chun Yucheng smiled and pulled Zuemo to a tall Dan cauldron. "I asked Golden Crow Camp to forge this Dan cauldron. I also got Sun Bao and Ji Wei to operate it for a few days. It is a pity that I couldn't find them later on. The other people said that they went out." Chun Yucheng's tone was full of regret. "If they are here, this fire will definitely be stronger." Zuemo, who knew about the entire matter, sighed again. He was filled with sympathy towards Sun Bao and Ji Wei. Chun Yucheng usually did not show himself in public, but he was Zuemo's shitty. His status in Mo Cloud Sea was high. If his requests were not ridiculous, no one would dare refuse him. Due to this, when they received a request for help, Sun Bao and Ji Wei had hurried over despite their heavy workload. But Chun Yucheng had the two of them act as cauldron workers. Heavens, the two masters of Golden Crow Camp, the two top people in charge of all the seal show in Mo Cloud Sea acting as manual laborers, and for 3 days. When they reached 3 days, they did not relent to Chun Yucheng's invitation, and fled with their ash-covered faces. I couldn't find them no matter what I tried. I could only hire some of the experienced people from Golden Crow Camp. However, they are lacking compared to Sun Bao and Ji Wei, but still acceptable. Chun Yucheng was clearly slightly displeased. "It's fine if it is about the same." Zuemo hurriedly comforted. "That's true." Chun Yucheng thought and said with a tilted head, "This Dan cauldron is good and the people later on worked hard. The results aren't bad." Xixiang's Shen fire was also crucial and beneficial to Lil Fire's growth. However, Lil Fire is slightly less intelligent compared to 10th grade and Sunshine. But it is in Yao Beast to begin with and has no trouble cultivating Yao arts. I found a fire Yao art in the Puwei library called the Fire Heartbone Refining Art for it. Zuemo stilled and instinctively asked, "Lil Fire has bones?" Lil Fire had ended up in Zuemo's demonic hands many times, and he had squeezed the other countless times. In Zuemo's memories, Lil Fire was like a rubber ball, and didn't have any bones. It does. When it came to his profession, Chun Yucheng's expression immediately became serious. There are many small bones inside its body similar to sea sponges. These bones are very small and flexible. Their structure is very flexible and resilient, so Lil Fire appears as though it is boneless. Oh, so this cultivation will thicken its bones and have it become more powerful? Zuemo asked with anticipation. Powerful? Chun Yucheng shook his head with bewilderment. I don't know that. I only felt that these kind of bones were rare, and wanted to try cultivating it. Zuemo's face was black as a pot. Even you don't know the result? No, this is normal. It is hard to predict the results of many husbandry trials. Chun Yucheng said with a righteous tone. But when Chun Yucheng turned and saw Zuemo's black face, he knew it was not good. He was so friendly this time because he had a goal. If he ruined the matter, it would be terrible. He hurriedly pulled Zuemo to another place. Unlike the other beast pools, there was a kind of vine growing here that Zuemo had never seen. It grew over multiple mu of fields, and under the thick vines, there was a transparent bubble that hung below. Lil Black seemed to see Zuemo from within the bubble. It furiously moved its legs, but no matter how it moved, it only spun around in the water bubble. Xixiang, look, this is the water bubble vine, Chun Yucheng hurriedly introduced. It can grow this a special kind of water bubble, and is a natural beast pool. Also, Xixiang, take a look. As he spoke, he pulled away the thick leaves covering the ground and showed a beast pool. Zuemo found that the roots of the water bubble vine grew into the beast pool. The medicine in the beast pool is absorbed by the root system, and then gathers in the water bubbles. This process is even more wondrous than the seal formations we engrave. All kinds of medicines can merge together in the water bubble and form a natural beast pool. Zuomo was also attracted by such a wondrous beast pool. Chun Yucheng saw the interest on Zuomo's face and continued. The medicine absorbed will change slightly through the vine's roots and leaves. This is also the source of its great ability. However, because the water bubbles are not very big, it can only be used on those relatively small beasts. I saw Lil Black and immediately thought of the water bubble vine. What is its use to Lil Black? Zuomo went directly for the core of the matter. Hehe Shixiang, don't be shocked when you hear this. Chun Yucheng was both smug and mysterious. Chapter 762. The bird with the domineering presence speak. Zuomo glared at Chun Yucheng. The smugness on Chun Yucheng's face did not decrease. He lowered his voice and spoke softly as if revealing the greatest secret. Lil Black is sensitive to Ling energy. This is why it can find treasures. However, I discovered after studying that its ability lies with its pair of antennae. Also, it isn't just able to detect to Ling energy, it is able to detect to many things such as killing energy, warmth and presence. However, in reality what it is sensitive to is vibration. Vibration? Zuomo's expression was shocked. This answer was unexpected. Yes, vibration. Chun Yucheng's expression became grave. This is the true reason it can find treasures. Ling veins and talismans have unique Ling power vibrations, and it would find these treasures through these vibrations. The usual husbandry method would strengthen its antennae to make it more sensitive. Use Ling medicine filled with Ling power to stimulate its antennae, so it becomes familiar to the vibrations of Ling power, and become more sensitive to that energy. However, Ling power is already being retired, and Shen power is more powerful. But Shen power has vibrations. At the core, there is no difference, they are all different kinds of power. I thought that if it could remember vibrations of Shen power, couldn't it be able to find treasures with Shen power? The more he spoke, the more excited Chun Yucheng got. Therefore, I found all kinds of materials with Shen power. However, these materials are really expensive and there are too few. Speaking of this, Bao-yi is a penny pincher. Every time I go to get materials from him, that person looks like a miser. I get so angry. Chun Yucheng gritted his teeth when he spoke of Bao-yi, but Zuomo did not care. Bao-yi's personality was so, and as a result, he was the best choice of personnel to manage the stores. Otherwise, Zuomo's little bit of wealth would not be enough for these people to madly waste. Did it succeed? Zuomo was more concerned with this. Chun Yucheng was angry about Bao-yi, but that was because of the conflict over the materials. The two didn't have any actual personal conflict, and so Zuomo's question immediately shifted the topic of conversation away. He hesitated, and then said haltingly, theoretically it should be a success. In reality? Zuomo immediately saw through his little trick. I don't know. Chun Yucheng might use some simple and clumsy moves, but he would not lie, especially when it came to his field. The entire process was very smooth, but I have no confidence in the result. No one has ever done this before, and I cannot find any examples. Therefore, I will only know what level it reached when it all pans out. Chun Yucheng was afraid that Zuomo would have high hopes and be greatly disappointed, so he poured cold water. However, we cannot rush this. Even if it recognizes Shen power vibrations, there is a problem of sensitivity. If it is not sensitive towards Shen power, then there is no value. However, I am certain that this is definitely the direction that Ling beasts, Yao beasts and Mo steeds will develop in. Shen power is the best path. You did good. Zuomo was certain about Chen Shurdi's results. He was not someone who did not have foresight. He knew that what looked like it to run a business, anything that was unable to produce value today, could still be an important step. Will anything happen to Lil Black? Zuomo looked at Lil Black, who was spinning in the water bubble, and couldn't help but ask. What do you mean? Chun Yucheng stilled. Things like life-threatening danger, Zuomo explained. The little ones had followed him for many years, and Zuaimo didn't really care if they were strong or not. However, he definitely would not like any accidents happening to them. Life-threatening danger? Chun Yucheng's face flushed red, and so did his neck as though he was being humiliated greatly. He said loudly, "So in Shixiang's eyes, my skill is so low?" Zuaimo had not expected that his mindless words would cause such a great response from Cheng Shidi. He hurriedly bowed, apologized, and comforted with gentle words to pacify the fires of Cheng Shidi's anger. Fortunately, Chun Yucheng's temper left as fast as it came. When the two reached Lil Pagoda's beast pool, he had completely forgotten about the incident, and became excited again. Lil Pagoda is actually different from the other little ones. He's a talisman, and also Shixiang's soulbond talisman. Theoretically, husbandry methods cannot be used on him, but he actually is the most intelligent of the little ones after Silly Bird. Its body forms a complete system, from the 5-element attribute to the dual attributes of yin and yang. I don't know anything about forging, but I understand Ling beasts. Lil Pagoda is highly intelligent and not very different from Ling beasts. It knows best about what it needs. Zuaimo listened carefully. Of the little ones, he liked the cute Lil Pagoda the most. It can consume all kinds of materials, and then deconstruct them into pure yin and yang base essence. Its body is filled with the base essence of yin and yang. However, these two base essence powers are clearly divided and repel each other. This situation has occurred in many Ling beasts that have dual attributes, such as fire and water. If they come into conflict, the Ling beast will feel great pain, and the power of the Ling beast will be greatly reduced. The crux to solving this problem is to merge these two completely opposite powers, so they will subdue and augment each other like the fire lotus in water. That is frequently seen. Yin and yang is even easier to balance. They have a perfect merging method, the yin-yang fish. Once in his zone, Chun Yucheng seemed to be a completely different person. His body gave off a presence of great self-confidence. He waved his arms, his voice strong. The most important requirement to forming the yin-yang fish is that yin and yang have to reach an absolute equilibrium. When the two reach a true equilibrium, the yin-yang fish will naturally form. Therefore, I continued to feed yin and yang materials to it to adjust the strength of the yin and yang powers. Hehe, just as I expected, Shixiang look. Before Chun Yucheng finished, Li Pagoda in the medicine pool had detected Zuaimo's arrival, and happily dove into Zuaimo's arm. Zuaimo picked it up by the tip of the power, and held it in front of him. Lil Pagoda happily waved its black eaves. This guy was even fatter. Zuaimo thought hatefully. No matter if it was the top of the tower, the body, or the eaves, they were even rounder than before. What had changed the most was the level just underneath the tip of the tower. There were two little yin-yang fish that looked like two eyes. What made Zuaimo speechless was that Lil Pagoda could use its fat body to squeeze the yin-yang fish. It appeared as though its eyes were blinking. This guy's truly intelligent. Zuaimo muttered in joy. Feeling Zuaimo's happiness, Lil Pagoda used its round body to snuggle in Zuaimo's hand. Don't snuggle, you idiot, you swallowed so much materials, you'll have to sell yourself to pay back. Zuaimo said harshly. But his hand was gentle as he put this growing glutton onto his shoulder. Lil Pagoda's little Eve hands flapped even more happily. It jumped from Zuaimo's right shoulder to his left and back again as it played happily. It really is intelligent. Chun Yucheng couldn't help but say. It is the first time I have seen such an intelligent talisman. How about Silly Bird? Zuaimo asked. That's another one. Chun Yucheng's expression became even more spectacular. He then said, Shixiang, come with me and see. Coming to the lava pool from last time, Silly Bird still had an expression of idle enjoyment. This bird is no ordinary bird. Chun Yucheng couldn't help but say. Its intelligence is fantastical. Look at its feathers. Following Chun Yucheng's finger, Zuaimo looked and immediately found that Silly Bird's feathers were bright red and unusually grand. What was the most difficult to comprehend was that the feathers would give off threads of flame. Zuaimo's eyes widened as he exclaimed, Phoenix feathers. You recognized it. Chun Yucheng sounded as though he was sleep-talking, even though he had seen this numerous times before. The legends say the feathers of the phoenix are as red as blood. and can give off unique flames. With one flap of their wing can create a sea of fire. Phoenixes regenerate, are born accompanied by fire, and will die accompanied by fire. Zuemo was dumbstruck. It doesn't have any bloodline of a phoenix. I hadn't expected that it could become a phoenix. Truthfully, I'm not sure if a phoenix is something like this. I've never seen one before. But even if Silly Bird isn't a phoenix, it is not much lesser in comparison. Also, this isn't its strongest trait. Refocusing, Zuemo blurted out. Then what? Her physical body. Chun Yucheng's expression was grave. Her body is astounding, powerful and resilient, stronger than those Mo physiques. I threw many Yao arts and spells at her, and she ignored them all. I found a Mo skill to throw at her. She took a glance but then threw it away. I finally understood that she desired to cultivate Mo skills. She wanted to cultivate Mo skills? Zuemo stammered out a question. This matter clearly was beyond the limits of his imagination. Yes. Chun Yucheng nodded seriously and then said, so I started to search for Mo skills that were suitable. I hadn't thought that she would be extremely picky. I found more than a dozen Mo skills, but she wasn't satisfied. You know that I'm very busy and I don't have the time to search through them. I threw all the high-level Mo skills we had at her for her to choose. Chun Yucheng had a conflicted expression. I hadn't expected for this one to actually choose one. Zuemo's expression also became strange. Which one did she choose? Solitary Dance of the Great Dark Wheel Phoenix. Chun Yucheng said. Only after that did I think, is she actually a phoenix? However, I've never heard of a mortal bird ascending to become a phoenix. It is not rational. It is not rational at all. Chun Yucheng shook his head furiously, as though he wanted to throw this thought out of his head. Solitary Dance of the Great Dark Wheel Phoenix. Zuemo was so shocked he was speechless. If his memory was correct, this Mo skill was one that Pu Yao said could not be successfully cultivated. This bird. Did she really get possessed by a phoenix? Zuemo dazedly looked at Silly Bird, who was soaking in the lava with an expression of enjoyment. As he looked, Zuemo suddenly felt that Silly Bird's half-lidded eyes and expression of enjoyment did have a certain style. After thinking for a moment, he recalled the phrase, a domineering presence, that you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.